Hello and welcome to another episode of Apologetics 101. Um, I'm here today to discuss something very heavy on my heart. I actually questioned whether or not if I should wait a little bit, but this video ended up having enough setbacks, so it wouldn't matter. Because originally I was going to do it last Wednesday, then I got tied up hours on hours having to respond to various critics on the comment section. And then I procrastinated it Friday, and I started it yesterday, Saturday. I started yesterday. Then I had technical difficulties because I had too much memory on my computer, and I had to get rid of a lot of stuff in order to be able to do this recording. So, without further ado, let's dive in. Today we are going to be responding to certain criticisms made by Erika from Gutsick Gibbon, and well, let's start now. All right. Okay. Today, well, I guess let's start by doing a little bit of an introduction here. All right. As you guys know, I'm a Christian apologist. I'm also a scholar. See that right there? Later she'll try to call me a layman. I'm not a layman. But I have a degree, and I am a scholar. But that's not why people usually attack me. What people usually attack me on is the fact that I'm a Christian apologist, and I usually, I do deal with a lot of controversial subject matters. And so I'm used to people attacking me, critics and criticisms and things like that in the comment sections of my videos or other people's videos. And so I'm just kind of used to that. I expect it. It doesn't really bother me much. But I'm not used to people going after me in a video. All right. I'm not used to people doing that. Erika did it once before, but she did so with responding to some criticisms I made on Creative Cons. I do plan on responding to Erika. I think she also made some criticisms against me. I might have already responded to those, though, in her Carter response video. I think I responded to those. But anyway, yeah, I think I did. But she responded. She's responded to on the Credit Cons thing on a section, not really necessarily attacking me, just basically dealing with something I said in the comment section, and so I'll be responding to that criticism when I do my Credit Cons video on the Tompkins controversy. I actually plan on doing 2 Credit Cons video, one for the Genesis series, but that's like a way later because it's during the time that I'm going to be talking about the flood. So I've got that planned up, and I might sit there and invite Donnie Budinski from Standing with Truth back again. He's been on this channel a couple times. I might invite him back again because he's got some great slides on Creative Cons, and he likes talking about the issue. So I might bring him back to have another discussion with us on Creative Cons and what that entails and that sort of thing. But in this particular Creative Cons video, I'm going to be doing this one myself. It's going to be called Erika versus Creative Cons, and it's going to be discussing her misrepresentation, which I find funny, which is kind of ironic because Erika always said every time Erika disagrees with something I say, she thinks it's funny, which I don't know why she thinks it's funny. If disagrees with me, that sort of thing. But this right here really is funny because Carter sits there and looks at her video. The first 6 minutes, she said he can only stomach the first 6 minutes of it. He goes, I don't even agree with what she said. That's Bearman. That's not even my position. Now, I said, I know. So I'm not the only young earth creationist that says she misrepresents our position on Creative Cons. So I find that interesting. But anyway, I do plan on responding to her criticism there, but I'm going to do it because since I'm already doing a Creative Cons video for the Tompkins controversy, because of Erika's misrepresentation. I'm just going to save that for that. But that's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm talking about here is Erika literally going after me in a vicious manner, attacking me, particularly making false allegations toward me. She made a series of false allegations. She made some erroneous statements, including about Dr. Korf and things like that. And so she threw that out at me. So, and she apparently, she's a little perturbed because I've been responding to her lately. I've been responding to her a lot. And the reason why is because I have a video response series that's out. As you guys know, I have 2 different series out right now, both dealing with heavy controversy. The Genesis series and the Tompkins controversy. And I've got some, I'm planning up some episodes. I'm trying to plan up some episodes for the Genesis series too, so I can kind of keep that going even while I'm doing the Tompkins controversy. But the Tompkins controversy is basically had 3 goals when it started. Originally, it was intended to be one single special presentation on Apologetics 101. It was going to be maybe a 5, 6, 7 hour long video. It was going to be a pretty long video. But Donnie suggested that I do it as the form of a series, and I started thinking maybe that would be better and less taxing on my computer if I just do it as a series, because there's a lot of stuff to cover here. I'm glad I did, because this with controversies, they tend to change real quickly, and then next thing you know, you're responding to people and things like that. And so it was probably a good idea, although it was a good idea, to do it as a response series. So when I started the series, I had 3 goals in mind. The first one was that this was going to be a video response series responding to Erika on her criticisms and comments on my Tompkins interview, my original Tompkins interview, and it's supposed to be responding to her criticism there. All right. If I manage to get Tompkins on again and she makes some more criticism, then I'll probably respond to those too. But anyway, it's just responding to her criticisms on that. All right. The second goal I had was to respond to Erika's criticisms overall, generally speaking, involving this controversy, including her main video on it, and of course, obviously, the new stuff that she's now produced on her YouTube channel, and responding to those kinds of criticisms. And so that's mainly that was supposed to be part of the main reasons for the Tompkins controversy. And the third one is to respond to the controversy as a whole. It's not just to respond to Erika, although she's the main voice on the evolution side, so obviously she's going to come up a lot. But there's also other voices such as Ruhip, Glenn, aka Glenn Williamson. Glenn has put out a video recently on Gap versus Ungap. It's very bad, but at least what I've seen of it. I haven't seen all of it yet, but I am watching it and reviewing it. And me and Glenn has had a little back and forth on some of his arguments on there, and I've noticed some errors there, and I'm probably going to notice some more errors as we're going through this discussion. But in any given case, of course, she's promoting that. In fact, that's what the video that we're going to see a clip from is all about, is her promoting that particular video. And she's going to show it on her channel. Apparently, Ruhip, again, a.k.a. Glenn Williamson, Glenn wanted her to put that on her channel. She's going to put some commentary in there and that sort of thing. But essentially, fundamentally, she agrees with him. So it doesn't really matter. So she's promoting it, and she's putting it on her channel. And she thinks it's funny because she thinks it's funny because she's putting this in light of a video that I did responding to Erika. The last video I did responding to her on the topic of controversy, as per this one, is called the Controlling the Narrative. Now, the video is about different things. It's about different parameters that I wanted to go over. Something people are confused about max HPS 1 and what that involves, and the nature of E values, and so we had that discussion, and there was 2 different interviews that I had with Dr. Ian Korf, and so I discussed that and gave my own commentary of those things as well, and of course showed some slides from Erika and responding to some things up there, and we did And we did also controls, and that's the main thrust of the video was about. And I said, when I started talking about controls, I said I'm not here defending that Tompkins used controls in every case in every study. Okay, I'm not here to defend that. I'm here to what I'm defending is the idea that Tompkins didn't use any controls, and you can show that by just showing that some of his studies each does show that he used controls. And so that's what I was trying to say. And so I said I defended he did use controls for his 2015 paper. Lots of controls for his 2015 paper. You could find controls all throughout his 2015 paper. And he used controls for his 2018 paper. Me and Tompkins even talked about this on the phone the other day. So, yeah, he used controls for that. His 2016 paper, I said I could not find any reference. He could have used controls in the background. So I'm not saying necessarily that he didn't use any controls. But what I am saying is that his paper does not report any controls that he used for his 2016 paper. So I wasn't defending whether he used his controls for his 2016 paper, but that's how Erika, since Erika didn't see the video, and neither did, well, Ruheb said he saw a few minutes of it. It's what he said when he sent Tompkins an email, and then he forwarded that email to me and Carter for some reason. And then me and Ruheb went back and forth on his arguments, and that's how I became familiar with some of the things that he argued there and the errors that he made there. But in any given case, one of them being, of course, that he thinks that Tompkins divided by the query length, which is actually false. He didn't divide by the query length. But in any given case, that was one of the arguments that he made in his unpublished paper that was rejected for peer review. And so that he made. But anyway, but like I said, Erika's supporting this, and Erika's a little perturbed that I'm responding to her. She hasn't. I don't think she's really seen my video. She told me in an email that she was planning on watching my Richard Buggs Richard Buggs video before she did her video, but she said nothing about the video, nor did she play any clips from it. So I don't think she even watched my Richard Buggs video, to be honest. And what she said about Richard Buggs, it was just like a pointless statement. I mean, it was like, well, it just changes the scale of things and you know, gap widening out and things like that. It's like, that has nothing to do with anything that's argued. He still argues for 84.38% regardless. And so I reached out to Richard Buggs to inquire what he means by that, and he told me what he meant by that. And it's not what he meant by that was like, you know how evolutionists would say that humans and chimps are more similar than mice and rats. Well, his method would put mice and rats less similar than what most people think it is. So humans and chimps would still be more similar than mice and rats. Now, of course, I question that, but whatever. Let's assume that that's true. It doesn't really hurt our position any, because we don't argue that mice and rats are the same kind because of how much they're similar or different, and that sort of thing. And she tries to argue, well, that would mean that humans and chimps are similar. It's like, nobody's questioning the similarity, that they're similar. Everybody agrees that they're similar. The question is how much they are similar. So it seems like she was making the fallacy of irrelevant thesis. It was like, this is pointless. This has nothing to do with anything. And it certainly doesn't dispute anything that I said in my video. It doesn't dispute anything that Richard Buggs has said in his papers. It doesn't dispute anything that Tompkins is using this. And originally, when she first started talking to me through email, she said in the email that Richard Buggs is using a different method. And I said, yes, that was what made the argument so strong. Because he's using a different method. You can't accuse him. If you have a problem with Tompkins' method, you can't sit there and say, well, he's just using the same method as Tompkins, therefore he must not be doing something right. You know, and you can't argue that because he's not using the same method. And apparently she must have got the gist of that, because she doesn't, at least I haven't seen it yet, that she brought up that he's using a different method, because all that does is it further rubber stamps what I'm saying here. You can't, because no matter what problems you might have with Tompkins' method, you can't employ that with Richard Buggs because he's not using that method. Richard Buggs has told me that he's not following the controversy right now. He's never studied Tompkins' study. He's aware of it, but he's never studied it. So he's not somehow borrowing from Tompkins, and Tompkins isn't borrowing from him, and that sort of thing. So that makes their results independent of each other, and that's why that's so strong. And I'm glad that I haven't seen her try to use that argument like she did in the emails, in her videos. So she might understand the implications of what I'm saying here. But in any given case, she hasn't really provided any adequate response to how Richard Bugs managed to come up with 84.38%. She did not do that. The gaps widening out is irrelevant. It's irrelevant. Yes, it would change the scale of things, but it doesn't really impact anything. However, today, what we're getting at is what Erika had put in forth in the beginning of her video, where she does level a series of false attacks. We're not going to be watching the whole video. I don't have her permission. Despite what she thinks, I would need her permission to do the whole video, and I'm not going to do that. But what I am going to do is I'm going to show you clips from the beginning portions of it where she levels false allegations toward me. And that's what we're going to be watching today. Alright, without further ado, let's look into it.
You guys probably know Brian of Apologetics 101. He has been, I guess pestering would be the right word.
Not been pestering her. I guess throwing out response videos is pestering her. She sent me an email originally. I didn't even know her email address, never looked for it or anything. She sent me an email. That's how I got Erika's email, because she sent me an email. How she got my email, I don't know. I assume she got it from Ruhip. There's a couple of public ways you can get my email. You can get it from the description box in my videos. It'll be located in my videos down below. You can also get it on my website. But it's doubtful she went into any of these. She knows Ruhip personally, so more than likely Ruhip does nefarious things all the time. So it wouldn't surprise me one bit if she went to Ruhip and say, "Can I have her email?" "Sure, I don't need Brian's permission to give you his email," and just gave her my email. So it wouldn't surprise me if it was something like that. But in any given case, I didn't give her my email, so she got it from somewhere. But anyway, she emailed me first, and then we went into a long, prolonged debate for a very long time. Not right after she sent me email. It was sometime after the situation that we're going to go into later got fixed, and then she sat there and started a debate with me, and we went to back and forth for a very long time over various issues. And I tried to get her to stop several times emailing me. I said, "Stop emailing me. I'm done. Let's stop with this." And then she did it again. She respond, and then I respond, and we just kind of kept going back and forth. I was like, I don't normally do email debates, and the reason I don't is because they're not public. I prefer public debates because they tend to be more beneficial to other people outside of just me and the person I'm debating. It benefits other people. People see how these things are responded to, these things are answered, and so with private emails, I feel like I'm just glorifying myself or something, and I don't like feeling that way. So I usually don't do email debates, but people tend to have issues with something I say, and then they want to email me and debate me. Ruhip's reasons for doing an email debate, because he really doesn't like doing debates in the comment section, which is how I usually do debates, is in the comment sections of the either my videos or other people's videos. That's how I normally would do public debates. But Ruhip don't like that because he can't link things and things like that, or it's hard to link things because the algorithm often catches it and deletes his post. And so I can understand his reasons for wanting to debate that way, but I just don't usually prefer to debate that way. So, but Erika, she don't care, and every time I tell her to stop emailing me, she would still send me emails, and over again. And I even called her out one time in the live chat of one of Donnie's videos because she wasn't talking to me in the live chat, which I thought was so ironic because I can't get her to stop talking to me in the emails. So I'm like, okay, you don't want to talk to me in the live chat, but I can't get you to stop emailing me. Then she finally said something to me. But I thought that was so ironic and funny. But anyway, but she was sitting there, I couldn't get, for the longest time I couldn't get her to stop. I think with Erika, the only way Erika would stop emailing me is if she wants to stop emailing. If she gets tired of emailing me, then she'll stop. She won't stop because I told her to. Now with Ruhib, I will say one positive thing about Ruhib. I will say one positive thing. Let me get yeah. I will say one positive thing about Ruhib. Ruhib will stop if I tell him to stop. He usually does. He rarely ever just keeps the conversation going once I want to end it. And I will say that to his credit, not patronizing, not anything like that. That's a positive compliment toward Ruhib, to Glenn Williamson. I say a lot of negative stuff about things that he argues, absolutely. And we and him have some strong disagreements on a number of things, and I really don't trust him, to be honest. And he's proven himself to be untrustworthy to me, and I've told him this before. And I do not trust him. But to his credit, he will stop debating me and emailing me and in the comment section if I say, okay, we've gone on circles on this long enough. I don't think we can go any further. And he was like, yep, I agree. We can't go any further with this. And he'll stop. And it's only Erika that won't do that if I ask her to. And she'll just keep going with it. So who's pestering who here? Maybe she's referring to all the response videos. But then again, I'm also in a response video series. And I told you there's 3 goals to that series, right? 3 goals. And those 3 goals, 2 of them are about Erika. So, of course, I'm going to be responding. She's a big voice in this controversy. So, of course, I'm going to be responding to her criticisms. And so there's going to be a lot of response videos responding directly to her. But apparently, she's a bit perturbed because I'm responding to her so much. And she has an issue with it. And this is what's motivating her to attack me here.
Me for quite some time. He was present in the live chat for my original Jeffrey Tompkins release, and then I covered his interview with Tompkins for some content a while back, and a lot of funny things have been happening with Brian.
Again, she kind of throws up the word funny a lot. I don't know what she finds funny about two people disagreeing with each other. I don't understand that, but she throws that up there. If funny and disagreeing with each other was synonymous, then as far as I'm concerned, she's a riot. She's a riot. She's a regular party clown for sure. If funny and disagreements and that sort of thing was synonymous with each other.
And I kind of just want to share with you, kind of culminating in the ultimate funny thing. So let me walk you through what's...
I'll talk about her ultimate funny thing later, because she'll get into that, and there's no point in talking about it here because I'll be talking about it when she gets to that. And so we'll move forward, and once we get to that part, then we'll deal with that.
Been going on between myself and him since then. This is a drama channel now too. Between me, a small pseudoscience busting channel, and even smaller evangelical channels that no one knows about. So.
Okay, Erika likes doing these cheap shots toward me. She likes to, and I'm the only person that I've seen her do this with. I mean, she does mockery and teases and snarkness and all kinds of other things to other people too. And she thinks that just because she warns us about that in her more recent video, of course, we already know she does that anyhow in her response videos, that makes it right. It actually doesn't. And yes, this is YouTube, and I understand that. She wants to make her videos fun for her watchers and stuff. And there's a way to do that that's appropriate. But she doesn't do it appropriately. And some of her snide remarks tend to be begging question epithet fallacies as well. They got loaded implications in there that's just there. It's not just intended for fun or because she thinks it's funny or whatever. And of course, a lot of them are not really funny. They might be funny to her because she has a weird sense of humor, but like I said, she thinks disagreements is funny. But they're not really funny. They're not really funny. Making fun of other people to me is not funny. And if you think about it, you know, if I wanted to sit there and make fun of evolutionists, you guys, meaning evolutionists, you guys make it very easy for us to make fun of you. And some creationists do, by the way. I don't necessarily approve of their actions either, but there are creationists that do. But you guys do make it easy for us to make fun of y'all. Y'all believe that we are related to chimpanzees and pine cones and bananas and all sorts of other things, and y'all believe that that we are apes, even though we don't have fundamental differences between us and apes, but you believe we're apes. You believe that we descended from some sort of apish primate, and you believe that all life on Earth is related. You believe that the whole universe came from a dot. If creationists really wanted to make fun of you, you guys make it so easy for us. You'll just open the door for hilarious comedy on the part of the creationists, if that was our goal. However, the vast majority of creationists, I can't speak for all of them, but most of them, I think that would probably try to have a goal relating to truth, or wanting truth. That's ultimately our goal. And we want rational conversations to ensue. But that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen that rational conversation is going to happen if we're just sitting there making fun of each other and throwing cheap shots. But in terms of cheap shots, I'm the only person she actually throws out cheap shots to, at least that I've seen. She does mockery and teases to other people and that sort of thing, yes. But these kinds of comments are cheap shots, like, oh, you're a small channel, or you're a layman. And I'm like, no, I'm not. For start with, I'm not really a layman. So I'm not a layman at all. We'll get into that later, because she'll call me that. But she throws out these cheap shots toward me, like or even smaller channel. I don't consider myself a small channel. Maybe a small channel if you're comparing like subscribers, then maybe, because I don't have thousands of subscribers on my channel or anything like that. But I do have 166 subscribers last time I checked. Maybe more than that now. I don't know. But last time I checked, it was 166. When I did the 3-year anniversary just early this week, or last week, early last week, I had 165. So I gained another subscriber since then. And so, of course, sometimes I lose some and then gain some. Lose some, gain some. But the trend is going up as far as the number of subscribers that I am getting on my channel, and more coming. And I used to be, now everybody starts out small. I started out as a really small channel. Before my Genesis series, I had like 29 subscribers, and that shot up because of the Genesis series. Now, if you're basing it on views, well, I get thousands of people view. More people view a YouTube channel than they do subscribe to it. It's weird. I don't know if people realize you can subscribe to it, or maybe they're not constant YouTubers, or whatever the case may be. But more people view the videos than they do subscribe to it. So even though I have 166 subscribers, I have thousands of people that view my channel. My Distant Starlight video got 2,000. Last time I checked, when I did my stats for my last video on my 3-year anniversary, I had 2,700 views on my Distant Starlight video. As far as I know, my Distant Starlight video with Dr. Jason Lau is the most comprehensive video still on YouTube about the whole so-called Distant Starlight problem, because it's a 2-hour video that deals with the whole issue and the arguments, and it's also much more in-depth in terms of Dr. Jason Lau's arguments as well. A lot of times when you see it on there, Dr. Lau's asked an individual question about it, and he spends about maybe 5-10 minutes talking about it in a very brief manner, and so that's what you usually see. This was much more comprehensive. So this is probably I would say that would be the best video on YouTube presently on the so-called Distant Starlight problem. Lots of other people agree too, and it's got thousands and thousands of viewers on it. So it's funny that she would call me a small channel. Maybe she's saying relative to hers, and relative to hers, I probably would be a small channel if you're looking at subscribers, that is, and maybe even viewers. Then they would be a small channel as a result. But but it's not small in an objective sense. Not when you're just thinking about, okay, what a small channel will be like where I was, where I had less than 30 subscribers before the Genesis series. That would be a small channel. 166 subscribers, thousands and thousands of viewers. I don't really consider that a small channel. Now, like I said, she probably is saying relative to hers, and then she calls herself a small channel as well. I don't know what she considers to be a big channel, to be honest. So I'm not exactly sure. Maybe that's just her being sarcastic on her channel, or maybe it's trying to make it look like she ain't doing a cheap shot toward my channel in the process. Like if she's saying that about her channel, maybe I wouldn't think it was a cheap shot about my channel. But she does like making these cheap shots, and they're very immature. They're not good, I would say, and sometimes they're even erroneous entirely. But anyway, just to add an additional note in post, if she really thinks that I'm a nobody, that I don't have no impact and that nobody knows about me, which by the way, people do know about me. Lots of people know about me. I've got 100 right now. Actually, currently, while I'm editing this, I found out I had 167 subscribers. So I gained an extra subscriber since last time I did a video. And when I looked at the Dr. Jason Lau's video, the one I did with him on Distant Starlight, originally when I looked at it last time, when I did my stats, I had like 2,700 even subscribers. Since then, 35 more have actually viewed that video. So now it's up to 2,735 views. So that's pretty good. 2,735 views. But in any given case, supposedly nobody knows about me except for everybody at Standing for Truth Ministry there with Donnie's channel, except all of Erika's channel, because she started her whole thing out by saying, you know Brian, but yet nobody knows me, allegedly. If I don't make any impact, if I made zero impact, a point that I would like to make is if I have zero impact on anybody, then why does she care? Why is she responding to me? After all, nobody knows me, according to her.
Looked me straight in the eyes and said, who are you? I told you I'm nobody, Capone. Biggest mistake of your life is that you believe me.
Obviously, I do make an impact. I do have an impact. She might not realize it. She might not want to believe it, but I actually have an impact. And the funny thing is that that for her to sit there and be doing these kinds of response videos, I must be really getting to her. And I must be really getting to her, and for her to sit there and do these kinds of response videos, dedicate the entire video to me, I must be getting somewhere, and that's good. I'm glad. It's good. I'm not trying to get under her skin, but it does mean that I must be making a difference. I must be making an impact, either on her followers, or other people. She wants to silence me for sure, but she ain't gonna do that. That's not gonna happen. And lots of people know who I am at this point. They didn't always did, but the cheap shot that she made, nobody knows who that I am. Lots of people know who I am. If that was true, Erika would not even bother with doing these response videos. And nobody even knows who he is. Nobody cares, and that sort of thing. But she's doing these response videos because the exact opposite. Because people do know who I am, and so I guess the idea is like I'm famous and Brian. Nobody knows who Brian is. Not true. Not true at all. Lots of people have actually know, except all the people that when I show up on Donnie's open mic nights on Standing for Truth Ministry. All the people on Standing for Truth Ministry. I'm a moderator on there. I have 106, except for the 167 subscribers I now got, except for the thousands of people that viewed my videos, including my Dr. Jason Lau video on Distant Starlight. Except all the people that on praise the I Am channel and, all across YouTube. Except for all of them, and of course all of Erika's subscribers as well. Except for all of them, nobody else knows me. If I am such a nobody, Erika, if I'm really a nobody, if you really think I'm a nobody, why respond to me? Why bother going through all those efforts to do that? You do that because I'm not a nobody, and you know it. And I do make an impact, and you don't like the fact that I make an impact, but I do make it. That's why you bother with these videos, because you know I do. I am getting to you, Erika, because if I wasn't, you wouldn't even bother. Why bother with somebody who's such a nobody? Obviously, that's not the case.
So the first big thing that happened is Brian accidentally doxed me, publishing my first and last name in a video on his channel, because he was reading emails between him and a third party who's been in correspondence with both of us. Just read my name out loud on the channel. I was very, very unhappy, so I emailed him and I was like, take this down, like, right now. And he did, to his credit. He definitely took it down. But then proceeded to go back and forth with me for several days on what the true definition of doxing is. Please reply in the comments if you feel that releasing someone's non-public first and last name qualifies as doxing, even if it was the result of negligence and not an intentional pursuit.
Alright. Okay. This one's going to take a little bit longer to reply to it. She's falsely accusing me of doxing her, and I'll get to that in a second. Alright. She's falsely accusing me of doxing her. She's saying that I doxed her. I didn't actually dox her. I'll explain the situation here in a minute, as well as the definitions for doxing, and I'll get into the very nature of what doxing actually is. So you'll see that I didn't actually dox her. Alright, so this is the first time me and Erika had an email exchange. Now, Erika agreed in the email exchange because the situation was done. I apologized for my actions. It wasn't doxing, but I did apologize for my actions. I admitted to my mistake. A lot of people say, you just admitted to your mistake. So the fact that it wasn't doxing doesn't mean I didn't make a mistake or didn't admit to making a mistake. I admitted to the mistake that I actually made, and I'll get more into that later. And I did apologize, and I don't owe any of Erika's critics anything. I directly admitted this to Erika and apologized for it. I fixed it immediately, as she herself admitted. She said it to my credit. She said he fixed it immediately. Yes, I immediately, promptly fixed it. Right when she said it. She tried to threaten me with YouTube, but that was not unnecessary. And I did tell her that was unnecessary. She's like, I didn't threaten you. And said, yes, you did. You threatened me with YouTube. And said, I'm not exactly sure if YouTube would have done anything about it anyhow. But just the same, regardless whether they would or not, I immediately would have done that, regardless if you said anything about YouTube, because I wasn't aware that you didn't want your last name revealed like that. So I did, and in a minute I'm going to actually talk about that for a second, because what happened was actually not something that I actually did. She said, well, he did it unintentionally, and as we're going to see in a minute, unintentional doxing is an oxymoron, but we'll get into that. I didn't actually dox her at all. Alright, so we went back and forth in a series of emails, and that's what she's replying to here. Me and her had an agreement, because it was fixed and everything was settled, that she would drop it and not bring it up anymore and not do videos on it or whatever. And I told her I wasn't going to do a video on it as long as she didn't, I was going to let it drop. I was going to do a video on it, just explain some of the comments that went down below right after I had made the video. But I decided, just let it go. If she's willing to let it go, I was going to let it go. And she went back on her word here, and obviously. So not only is she lying about me, because I didn't actually dox her, but she's lying to me. or did lie to me, not here, but lied to me when she said that she was going to drop the whole matter. Apparently, she held a grudge as a result. And so she ended up with that. Alright, let me explain the situation for her. Before we get into the actual definition of doxing, let me explain what actually happened. okay, the third party that she was talking about was Richard Buggs. And she contacted Richard Buggs like months after I was already in conversation with him. So it wasn't like me and her, she went back and forth, for a while with Richard Buggs and that sort of thing. She only been in contact with Richard Buggs a lot less than I have. And I actually talked to Richard Buggs recently, as mentioned earlier, when I referred to her criticism there. Me and him talked about that. And just to get a good gist of what he actually thought on that. I even sent him the timestamp so that way he can sit there and look at that and evaluate it and understand what she's talking about in reference to his conversation with her. But in any given case, I've actually been talking to Richard Buggs for a long time, and I also months before she was. Okay, but Richard Buggs was the person that I was talking to. Okay, I had Richard Buggs' permission to show the emails and stuff like that, and that's what I did. And I'm sitting there reading off the emails, right? And in the process of reading off the emails, Richard Buggs mentions her first and last name. I did not bring Erika up to him in this particular email exchange. Instead, I was actually trying to get Richard Buggs to come on my channel for an interview. I've asked him once before. I was trying to do it a second time. It was a bust. He just didn't want to do it. He don't mind answering questions through emails, but he's not willing to do an interview over it. So I said, okay. But in the process of doing that, I raised up the fact that there was a controversy, a heavy controversy. That's why I wanted him to come on for the interview. And he said, does this controversy have anything to do with, and he said Erika's first and last name. And, of course, I'm not thinking anything of it because, Erika is a public figure. Her first name, at least, is public for sure. Her face is known all the way across the thing, even across the internet. You can look her up on Google. You can look her up on YouTube, and she's there. And so I'm not thinking anything of it. So I'm reading these emails off, and it has her first and last name in there. And I just kind of put two and two together that this is who that he was talking about. And, well, apparently some of Erika's friends. Now, Erika herself has never actually watched that section. In fact, I don't even think he watched my video at all. But she actually never watched that section. She told me that herself. Some of her friends probably reported it to her and she actually said when she sent me the email that she heard that I had mentioned her last name, and her last name wasn't public. And I said, okay, I didn't know that. I'll take it down right away. And I did. And I went to take it down, and at the suggestion of Dr. Dan, I put my video on private so nobody can get access to it. I basically went all out to try to make sure I got it out. I was hoping I can do it without having to take the video down and re-uploading it, which I was able to do because YouTube provides something called YouTube Editor. And with something that small, with me just referencing the first and last name, I could just easily take that little slip it out and remove it. And of course my blurring was not perfect, so it did kind of bleed into the text, so it was able to hide the name in the text as well. So that perfectly worked out. So God was looking after me on that. So I'm glad that he did that. But in the process of the discussion, she falsely accused me of doxing her. I actually didn't dox her. Doxing is when you look for information or gather information about a person for the sole purpose of publishing that information. It's usually done online. It doesn't have to be done online. There are ways of doing doxing without publishing it online. It's always usually done through a published format. But you can dox somebody in a newspaper article, it does happen, and you could dox people in different various ways. But most of the time, it's usually online, mainly because we live in a digital world, and everything that we're about seems to be online. I'm surprised people don't live online. It's because some people probably do because you can have things sent to your home and everything else. So people spend a lot of time on the internet nowadays, and so it wouldn't be surprising that doxing runs rampant on the internet, and it does. And doxing is when you gather this information up. You're searching for this information, you gather it up, and you are publishing it online, and usually And by usually, I really mean almost in every case. Um, I don't really know of any non-malicious example of doxing, but the definition always says usually in case of malicious reasons. Um, None of the definitions ever say for negligence, which negligence would still imply intent anyhow, and you can't do intent with be like if I accidentally slip up and mention the name or something like that. That would be negligence, but so it doesn't say negligence. None of the definitions say negligence. Um, what it actually says is malicious intent. And so non-intentional, essentially, before I get into that, essentially, doxing is a type of trolling. We'll see that in a little bit too. It's a type of online trolling. It can be trolling in other aspects. Again, like I said, you can troll somebody on the newspaper article just as easy as you can on the internet. But like I said, usually it's done online, and it is a type of trolling. And none of the descriptions of, as we're going to see in a minute, none of the descriptions of doxing describes what I did. Now, what a lot of these critics are doing is they're thinking that doxing is just simply publishing information online or publishing unwanted information online. In that case, then everybody's guilty of it, including Erika. Erika, I remember, if I'm not mistaken, you guys put in the comment section. I tried to find this the other day just to use as a clip. I can't seem to find the exact place where she splattered Tompkins's email address on screen, and surprisingly, she had to search for that information. So technically, that would be doxing. And she just wants people to be able to ask questions. Maybe she did not. I don't know if she's doing it for malicious reasons or not. I think she claimed that to not do it for malicious reasons. But anyway, I remember that, and I thought it was done on her main video response to Tompkins. But I can't seem to find it, and I don't want to have to watch the video for umpteen million times just to try to find that one little spot where she did that. I would have to look through it and see it. If you guys know it, drop me a comment below. Send me the timestamp and which video it's in if y'all find it, and let me know, and I'll go directly to that. But that's interesting. But she did that, and so and hers was actually closer to doxing than mine was, definitely. But anyway, guys. And of course, you got Facebook, where people are gossiping on Facebook about other people, and we could talk about that being morally wrong and wrong for other reasons. But would that be considered doxing? According to Erika's definition, it would be. In that case, everybody's guilty of it. At one time or another is guilty of it. Because we all publish information online, even about ourselves. Sometimes we publish information online about ourselves, and then later we don't want that information publicized, but then someone takes that information that we publish online and publicize it, and their actions is doxing. But is our actions doxing when we put it online to begin with? Well, obviously not. I'm going to show you the definitions of doxing, actual doxing, because before I do that, let me talk a little bit more on that. With doxing, it's not just about the textbook definition of doxing. It is, but not just about that. It's also about the nature of doxing. If I sat there and gave you the definition of slavery as forced labor, would that be adequate enough to really express what it means when we say slavery? Well, no, because with my child, for example, he has certain responsibilities around the house. He has to clean his room, and he has to clean out the dishwasher for his mom. Not for me, because I do it myself. But for his mom, he has to clean out the dishwasher for her and stuff like that. So he has other responsibilities around the house, and he doesn't get paid for it. We don't give him allowance right now. We just can't afford it. But he doesn't get allowance. Is that slavery? Well, nobody would think that that's slavery. That's just a child doing his responsibilities. Same like me. I got responsibilities around my house. I'm the one who does all the garbage and empties out the trash. And whereas my wife, she does the cooking, and me and her kind of take back in turns doing dishes. So we got responsibilities around the house, and we're not getting any money for that, obviously. We're just doing it because it's our responsibility to do it. And so that's why we do it. But that would not be the same as slavery, would it? But what if we define slavery as understanding the nature of slavery as being somebody being held into captive, being treated like property, not actually being property, but being treated like it, where like someone owns them, like they're less than human, like they can do whatever they want to with them, and forced into labor as a result of their captivity. Would that be closer to what slavery would be? Well, yeah, that would be. Because not only are we talking about involuntary labor, we're talking about subjecting to someone to captivity and ownership, where that person is being owned as property to another person. And all of a sudden, the nature of slavery something becomes a reality in someone's mind. It's not just about the textbook definition. The textbook definition is part of it, but it's also a big part is if we understand the nature of it, of what it actually is. And doxing, there's a textbook definition of doxing that's used a lot. And then there's also the nature of doxing, which is what doxing actually is. When we say that person doxed somebody, or if a cybersecurity person references doxing, what do they mean by the word? What do they mean by it? Do they mean simply as someone who's throwing personal information around, or do they mean somebody who is intentionally gathering information up for the sole purpose of exposing that person's identity or personal information online publicly, and they're doing it for nefarious reasons? They're doing it to get back at them. Yeah. And we're going to go into the history of doxing too, because the history of doxing, okay, before I get into that, I do want to point out the fact that unintentional doxing is an oxymoron. You can't unintentionally dox somebody. The fact that everybody, including Erika, including the clip you saw just now with Erika, everybody involved and everybody that comes into this agrees that my actions was unintentional. The fact that everyone agrees, including Erika, that my actions are unintentional should be a red flag in everybody's mind that I didn't dox her. Unintentional doxing is an oxymoron. It's about like someone saying unintentional hacking. Like, you know, someone hacks somebody's computer, well, they just unintentionally hack that person's computer. Does that make sense to you? Well, no, of course not. If they hacked someone's computer, they did it on purpose, right? They purposefully hacked someone's computer. I mean, what did their finger slip? You know, I pushed the wrong button and I hacked NASA. That's not how that works. If you sat there and hacked somebody, you did it on purpose. So if someone doxed somebody, they did it on purpose. My actions were obviously unintentional. I was just reading from an email. That's all I was doing. Everyone concerned, everyone who looks into the situation, regardless what point of view they take, even Erika, agrees that my actions was unintentional. And that should be a red flag that I did not dox her. Because doxing is not unintentional. It's always intentional. It's a type of trolling. And so we're going to cover that in a second. But with all that said, well, before I show you the definition, I got one more thing to say on that. I want to give you the history of doxing. Doxing originated as dropping documents. If people were dropping personal documents online to expose personal information about a person, and they called it dropping documents. Later, they shortened the word documents to docs, like DOCS, but then also docs, like DOX, which is a abbreviated form of documents as well. And so they called it dropping docs. And then they just kind of, dropped the dropping. They dropped the dropping name.
Dropping.
A word on it, and just call it dox or doxing. Sometimes doxing is spelled with one X, sometimes they spell with two X's. In the statements I'm about to bring, you'll see one or two. I usually use one X because it doesn't send my spell checker into a frenzy, because it does send it into a frenzy on two X's. But you can spell it either way. Either way is appropriate spelling for doxing. And criticisms that have been thrown out toward me on doxing on when I was going back and forth on it, and I will bring up those later. Also mentioned the also did it with two X's and sometimes one X. I always did it with one X because, like I said, it doesn't send my spell checker into a frenzy. But anyway, but that's the history of doxing. It's done on purpose. It's a purposeful type of trolling. People are trying to troll somebody. Me reading off an email is not the same as doxing at all. And you're going to see that when you look at the examples, and when you look at the definitions, and we go through those definitions, you're going to see that I'm right. That's not that doxing has a very specific context to it, a contextual understanding of the very nature of doxing. What exactly is doxing? And you're going to see that as we're discussing it. Normally I don't do this kind of stuff because this is not what my channel is about, but I'm doing it here in order to be able to explain to you that I actually did not dox her. So that is a false allegation she's making toward me. But anyway, without further ado, let's dive into that. All right, we're here. We're going to do the first one here with Cyber Smile Foundation. I'm getting all this stuff from people with backgrounds in cybersecurity and things like that. They've written on the topic and so forth. He says doxing with one X, or doxing with two X's, is the practice of gathering and publishing personal or private information about someone on the internet. It comes from the word document, dox, as I already mentioned, and emerged as a revenge tactic. You hear that? In the 1990s hacking culture. Methods for obtaining information about the person being doxed ranges from using public searchable databases, social media platforms such as Facebook, and the hacking of personal accounts. This is referring to the gathering of that information and publishing it, not necessarily just on publishing it, but getting information about somebody. That's next one. Okay, here. This one says to publicly identify or publish private information about someone, especially as a form of punishment or revenge. Okay, and if you go further in this, it talks about doxing as a noun, and when it's used as a noun, it identifies it this way. Doxing, the term used, this is Harry Brunis, it's identifying this as stating this. Doxing, the term used for troll harassment technique of finding, you hear that right? Finding. So it's the troll harassment technique of finding and then posting a user's sensitive personal information, including address, phone numbers, and even social security numbers. That's Harry Bradis that it's citing from. All right. So what is doxing? It says doxing, also called doxing, is the act of revealing someone's personal information online. Doxing is the form of online harassment that means publicly exposing someone's real name, address, job, or other identifying information victim's consent. Aim of doxing is to humiliate, bully, harass, or otherwise harm a victim. Doxers collect breadcrumbs about people scattered across the internet. They assemble those small pieces of information to reveal the real person behind an alias. Breadcrumb data can include the target's name, physical address, email address, phone number, and more. Doxers may sell the personal information into the dark web. Okay, so essentially, this right here is talking about the gathering of the information itself. That this is what doxers do. I did not do that. In fact, I didn't even bring Erika up to Richard Bucks at all. And that's obvious even from the edited version of it. All right. Of course, by the way, in case people are wondering, doxing is not illegal. Okay. So a lot of people try to accuse me of that. Well, are you possibly concerned with something legality, and that's why you deny it? I'm denying it because it's not true. That I didn't dox her. That's why I'm denying it. Because definitionally and contextually, in every way you can think of, I did not dox Erika at all. It's a false allegation. That's why I'm denying it, because it's not true. I'm not denying it for legal reasons. It's not illegal to dox somebody. It should be illegal, but it's not. It is illegal to throw out certain types of personal information like social security numbers, things like that. That's illegal. But it's not illegal to dox somebody in terms of that, if that was done. But I didn't do that. Plus, it was fixed immediately anyhow, so it wouldn't matter. But I didn't actually dox her at all. That's the issue. The motivation, so when someone's released to the world, the motivation for doing so, such a thing could be personal revenge, political gain, as a result, almost always disastrous for a person whose information has been leaked. Doxing can reveal information like home address or phone numbers, private pictures and social security numbers, private messages or emails, and information about a person's job or family, and that sort of thing. So you notice nothing there about negligence. It's all nefarious. Supposing someone is committing a crime. Okay, you know, don't need that. How does doxing work? It can be surprising to learn how easy it can be for someone to locate your personal information. Consider your online activity as a series of clues. If someone is truly determined to hurt you, they can throw these clues assembly a complete assemble and assemble a complete picture, learning where you live, where you work, and other identifying information. There are many different methods that a hacker might use to collect information about a person or an organization. So, in other words, this is all done intentionally. There's no negligence involved, nothing like that. It's done intentionally. It's almost always done for nefarious reasons. I did not dox Erika at all. The nature of doxing, and there's some criticism. I dropped a comment in one of our other videos, because in one of our other videos she alluded to, she didn't really go into details in that video, but she kind of alluded to it, and she put it in the context where she's talking about other people ragging on her, because she's saying, I can understand how you feel, people ragging on you, look at all these comments, and she has all these little pictures of it. Then she, in that same context, she said, or when people dox me. And so it was an allusion toward me, but I didn't actually dox her. And so I put a comment in there that addresses that and said, no, I didn't dox you at all. And that's a false allegation. And, and I said I was going to respond to it. Well, a lot of her supporters didn't like that. They don't ever like anyone responding to Erika. So they came out and they said, "Oh no, you did definitely dox. You don't even know what the situation is." They didn't know what the situation was. They didn't know what happened. They didn't know. They know less about doxing than Erika does. And so they didn't know that. And so I sat there and threw out some definitions to them. And, actually, before I did the definitions, someone else put a series of definitions. The interesting thing is, one of them was one that I've used. But interesting enough, what she did was she took and put something in parentheses that was not in the definition and put it in all caps. Now, usually when you put something in there, when you want to add something in to the quote or clarify something that the person didn't actually say, usually you put it in brackets, right? You put it in brackets, and you can put it in normal type. You don't have to all caps. You just put it in brackets, and people know that the original writer didn't say that. But she put it in parentheses and put it in all caps. It makes you think that it was part of the quote, and she was just emphasizing, because people usually emphasize things when they put it in all caps. And so she put it in all caps to emphasize it, or it would make you think you did just emphasize it, but it makes you think it was part of the actual quote. In reality, it was not part of the actual quote. And she did it only to tweak the definition to match her thoughts on the subject matter in order to make her point. When your entire point rests or falls on what the definition of a term is, and then you tweak that definition by adding words in there in order to make it more in conformity to your thinking, to your position, that is, I have to think about it to figure out what kind of error or mistake in logic that is. But either way, that's bad. That's fallacious. That's deceptive even. You can't do that. But she tried to do that, or I assume it was a girl. It might be a guy. I don't know if it was a girl or a guy. Well, I'll use a neutral term. They. That's what they try to do. They try to sit there and do that. Not all of them, just that one person. But and I threw out some definitions, and I showed that this is not the case. I demonstrated it, and that person said, "Oh, well, your definitions itself says nothing about gathering except for one." I said, "No, they do actually. Actually, if you go into the articles, they actually do mention that, and mention that doxing pertains to the gathering of information and so forth. But in any given case, they do actually mention it." And me and that person went back and forth for the longest time. And finally I said, we're just going in circles. We're reiterating the same points and arguments that we already made. There's no point in keeping it. I'm done with this. And I ended it there, and I told her that I told them I would not sit there and read their post. And so they decided to sit there and send one email. I didn't read it. I told I wouldn't. Then they sent me another one. And I only saw the first line of it because it was on my YouTube alert. But he said, in case you ignore me again, I'm just going to put this briefly. And I said, well, I'm not going to read that either. I told you I wasn't going to read it. You put it brief as you want to. We're done. I'm not going to keep on going with this. And so I just didn't read what she said. But one of the things they put in the criticisms is that I told Erika that I was going to do a response video. The response video wasn't just specifically because she made that false allegation. The response video you're watching here is what I was talking about. It wasn't just because she made that. She made a series of false allegations and errors, and I was going to do a response video. I would have done a response video regardless if she brought that false allegation up. That wasn't my main motive for doing it. My main motive was because she was making false allegations to me and made a series of errors, and so that's why I was doing the video. But everybody in the comment section, this is weird. They thought that I was threatening Erika because I told her I was going to do a response video. But a response video is not a threat. It's not a punishment. It's not getting back at her. If anything, she actually was trying to get back at me for doing response videos to her by doing that. So, was she threatening me? Whenever she did her response video to my Tompkins interview, before she did it, she actually dropped a comment below that video with my original Tompkins interview, and she had put in that comment that she was going to be responding to that video later. Was that a threat? And I brought this up to him too. So, was that a threat? Do you think that's a threat? It's not a threat to sit there and say you're going to do a response video. That's silly. That's stupid. That's absolutely stupid. That is a new level of insanity. It's like, what in the world? That's not a threat. That's just me saying that I am going to do a response video. A response video is not punishment. What a response video is, it's not intended to get back at you. What a response video is it simply to clear the air about certain things, particularly if you think someone's making mistakes or errors and that sort of thing. And that's what a response video is. It's not intended as a threat. It's not a punishment. It's not a revenge tactic. It's not getting back at her or anything like that. That's not the goal of a response video. And a lot of these people didn't understand that. They thought I was threatening her because I said I was going to do a response video. She's like, no, that's not a threat. Even if she said nothing about that statement, I would have done a response video because of all the other things she said. So no. That had nothing to do with the threat. One guy went even further into insanity and thought that I was going to dox her again. It's like, I didn't dox her the first time, so I certainly had no plan on doxing her again. Because I didn't dox her the first time. So why would I dox her again? But nothing in my statements, nothing, 100% nothing. At least with them, they're basing it on me saying I was going to do a response video, right? Granted, that's not a threat, but at least they're basing it on that. But this is based on nothing. This is based on nothing. He said it was my tone. It's like, no, my tone did not indicate that either. And finally, I got through to that person. It took me a little bit. We went back and forth. It was touch and go there for a minute, and I almost thought that he was going to slip further into that insanity. But he finally actually got it at the end. He said, okay. And he was the only one I actually liked because he actually brought the discussion to an end, and he finally got what he finally understood what I was going for. And so, but that is ridiculous, thinking that if I'm doing a response video, that automatically that means that that's a threat, that I'm threatening her or something. Like, no, that's not a threat. That's silly. That's stupid. Why in the world do you think that? that is a new weird. That's new level of weird. That's a new level of insanity. Don't sit there and argue that. That is silly. A response video is not a threat. But anyway, I really am tired of talking about this stuff. And me and Erika had an agreement. She broke that agreement. And because she broke that agreement is why I'm doing this video. Well, why I'm doing that part of the video. Because if she's going to sit there and bring it up after we already closed the issue, then fine. But no, just to kind of, before we leave this, I do want to clarify some stuff first. The fact that it wasn't doxing doesn't mean that I didn't make a mistake. Some people conflated the doxing with the mistake, and they say just admit you made a mistake, admit that you doxed me. No, I'm not going to admit to something I didn't do. I didn't dox her, so that's false. We saw there that I didn't dox her. Doxing is a form of trolling, especially online trolling. in which someone does. I wasn't doing that. So that's not so I didn't dox her. So I'm not going to admit to something I didn't actually do. But that doesn't mean I didn't make a mistake. That doesn't mean a mistake was not made. Unintentional or not, innocent or not, it was still a mistake. And that's why I admitted that mistake to Erika, the only person I would have owed anything to, because I wouldn't have owed anything to any of her critics. So I admitted to Erika that I made the mistake. I admitted to what mistake I made. I admitted to, which was not doxing. And I did apologize for making it. I did correct it immediately, as she herself, as you saw, admitted to it. And she also admits it was unintentional. So it was not done blatantly or anything like that. I was just reading up an email. Maybe someone could argue that maybe I should have checked with Erika to make sure that her last name was public and that sort of thing. And you could say that. And yeah, I probably should have done that. And that's why I admitted to being a mistake, and I did apologize for her and that sort of thing. The fact that it's not doxing doesn't mean it wasn't a mistake. Doesn't mean I didn't do something that I shouldn't have done. I still corrected it. I still fixed it. I apologized to Erika. I gave her my word it would never happen again, and it hasn't, and that won't. And then we moved forward from that. At least I thought I was moving forward with that. And of course, someone in the comments is like, well, why don't you just stop with all this stuff and just move on? It's like, I am moving on. It was Erika that didn't want to move on. That's why she did that. She didn't want to move on from it. Despite the fact that it was fixed, despite the fact that we had an agreement, despite the fact that I apologized for, I fixed the issue, and never getting it. Despite all that, she's obviously not found peace with it still in her mind, and so she's still trying to bring it up, despite the fact that it is resolved. The fact that it went from point A to point B, it's resolved. Why even bring it up at all? And so I think she's doing it to get back at me. I think she's still perturbed about it regardless. If it was fixed and apologized for, I think she doesn't forgive me for the action. There was an action that was done. It wasn't doxing. But I did do it, and I did apologize for it. And she obviously hasn't forgiven me for it. I don't know why. It's all said and done. And she's putting me up there with people that have blatantly insulted her, and I'm not even there, nowhere near there. Given the fact that all I was doing is reading off an email, I didn't say anything bad about Erika. So to try to put me into that context, it's just wrong. She shouldn't do that. But anyway, let's move forward in her statements here. But as far as the doxing thing, I didn't dox her. I didn't go out trying to gather information. Unintentional doxing is an oxymoron, so that should be an immediate red flag that I did not dox her. It's usually almost always done for malicious reasons, and I'm not exactly sure what a non-malicious doxing would look like. The only thing I can think of is the reason they say that is because some of the types of doxing it can be more moderate, like sending a whole bunch of pizza deliveries to someone's address as an elaborate prank or something like that. But even in situations like that, that's still kind of malicious. It's just moderately malicious. So so I'm not exactly sure what a non-malicious reason would look like. But none of the definitions, none of the terms, none of the sources, none of the sites I went to, none of those people that specialize in cybersecurity, none of them says negligence. None of them do. That is purely added into the definition by Erika, 100%. All right, let's move forward.
Brian also proceeded to get mad at me for covering the entirety of his Jeffrey Tompkins video. He thinks that doesn't fall under the safety of fair use. We went back and forth for a while on that as well, and I informed him that given my piece was transformative and that it more than doubled the length of the original video, and I went through it line by line, adding very important context as to why the things that Tompkins and Brian alike why what they were saying was wrong. He was insistent that if that ever happened again, he was going to report my channel, and I was like, please, report away. Report me for covering the entirety of your videos. If Answers in Genesis couldn't beat me on those copyright claims, then you're not going to either. But I did think that back and forth was quite funny. If YouTubers couldn't cover entire videos in review format or debunks or whatever, many creators would not have a career on this platform. So also comment down below if you think Brian is correct on that one, that you can't actually cover an entire video, even if it is transformative.
All right. I've got, and this is another one that I'm going to have to go into some details with and play some additional clips as well. Let me go to full screen. All right. Now, okay. The deal is with this is that in the course of the discussion, I was trying to show that Erika, she was accusing me of being unprofessional with the act. It wasn't really unprofessional to begin with. There's nothing unprofessional about reading up an email. But in any case, she was trying to accuse me of that. And I was saying, well, you're being unprofessional and you're being disrespectful to me and you didn't get my permission to play the entire video, which, of course, you have to do because under fair use, you would have to play the entire video. Now, my issue was not that she played it as much as the lack of respect that she was showing me. That was the whole point. I didn't expect her to get into a full-blown debate about it. She got into a full-blown debate with me on it. The statement that I made was not overly controversial. Every 100% of any YouTube video agrees with what I said. 100% of them. We're going to go into a little bit more on that. But you could pick any YouTube video you want on fair use. You could go mini, mighty, mo, and they'll agree with what I said. You could sit there and pick them out of a hat if you want to, and they will agree with what I said. I wasn't saying something that was super controversial or unknown among YouTubers. Okay? Yes, there are YouTubers that do play the entire video. Usually it's because they know the person in question, and most YouTubers probably won't flag you over it. It doesn't necessarily mean that it constitutes fair use. The fact that you can get away with something doesn't mean like, there's lots of people that get away with shoplifting on a regular basis all the time. Does that make shoplifting not illegal or okay or anything like that? No. The fact that you can get away with something doesn't make it correct. Every single video on you can find on YouTube, including ones made by someone who works for YouTube. I think she works for YouTube at least. It's probably one of the best criticisms on YouTube on fair use, because she really goes into depth into it. All of them seems to talk about how you can't play the entire video, or the entire video, how the length of the video is taken into consideration, particularly if you take away from what they call the heart of the video, which means that you're taking away from the essence of what the video is about, and that sort of thing. And transformative does not necessarily, and really the truth is that what they do is they look at the whole thing. They look at all of it. They don't just look at something transform. They're not even just looking at just the entire video being played in full. They look at all of it, but that is a factor that plays into it, whether you play the whole video or not. YouTubers typically, to prevent flagging, they usually advise to do only a few seconds. Most people don't do a few seconds. I mean, especially when you're doing commentary videos, you really can't do a few seconds. So I would allow a lot more time than that, just because you need to have a context, right, of a particular clip. But playing the entire video in full without permission could land a possible flagging on you. Very much so. Even playing short clips can, actually. Playing short clips don't guarantee that you won't be flagged. But you can, but playing the full video, you're more likely going to get flagged. And by the way, just because a lot of YouTubers got away with this, there's a lot of YouTubers that don't. Why do you think a lot of YouTubers think that fair use don't work on YouTube and things like that? Now, fair use can work on YouTube, but it's hard because YouTube is a company. They do not make the decision of what's fair use or not, but they don't like the idea of the possibility of being sued either. And so they'd rather not take a chance on that. She mentions her run-in with Answers in Genesis. I don't know what happened between her and Answers in Genesis. She mentioned that to me several different times. I don't know what happened between that, but I do know that YouTube has a process by which you can flag somebody if they violate a copyright violation. But the way the process goes is you have a certain amount of time to respond. Like if someone flags you, they give you a certain amount of time. Say, okay, you can contest this if you want to. And you have to contest it within a certain amount of time. And then you do, then there's kind of like a back and forth, going back and forth. The other person has a chance to dispute your claim, and it goes back and forth like that. Now there's a point, I'm sure, that I've never been through that exactly. I've had a couple flags on my channel before. One I took off. Another one was I try to do these little funny reels at the beginning of it. Like when I first started the Genesis series, I try to do these little funny reels. Adjust my lighting here. I try to do some funny reels at the beginning of these videos, and one of them was I won a clip of the Big Bang Theory. When I did the Origin of the Universe video with Dr. Slaw, I had that at the beginning of the video. I thought it was hilarious, the Big Bang Theory, the show, and I did a clip from that, and someone flagged me. Now, could I have contested? Possibly, but it showed kind of a little bit more, and this was a popular show, and so I didn't really have to have it for my video, so I just went and edited it out. And that's usually what happens. It all depends on whether you want to fight or not. A copyright claim is not the same as a copyright strike, so just kind of keep it in mind. I have never had a copyright strike on my channel, but a copyright claim is not the same as copyright strike. But if I go and fight it and I lose it, there's a very good chance I would get a copyright strike. And 3 copyright strikes, and you're off YouTube completely. You're automatically banned from YouTube in any account. You can't just come on there as a different account or something. On any account that's under your name, under your email, you're done. All right, if you get 3 copyright strikes. I haven't even had 1. So a copyright claim is not the same as a copyright strike. I've had 2 copyright claims, not copyright strikes. And it all depends on whether you want to fight them or not. And of course, you're probably much more going to be motivated, like Erika, to try to fight it if you monetize your videos. I don't monetize my videos, so it's not a big deal. Plus, I didn't really need that clip of the Big Bang Theory. I thought it was funny at the time, but I just kind of took it out. And another one came because I had another clip. This one was on, I can't remember. Yeah, I remember this. This wasn't on Genesis series. This was on a different video response that I did while I responded to Michael Jones of Inspiring Philosophy, Atheistic Evolutionist, and it wasn't a part of my Genesis series though, but just a response video that I was responding to a particular statement he made. And I did the Simpsons at Church thing, but I had to edit a lot out because there's a lot of offensive stuff there. I remember watching Simpsons as a kid, and I thought it was hilarious originally, but I didn't realize how offensive all the stuff that was said in that thing was, and I started taking a lot of stuff out. I figured, with me editing it out, and it'd be a little bit more transformative, that maybe they wouldn't have a problem with it. But Fox actually did flag me for that. But when Fox flagged me for it, they actually said that they were going to allow me to have that clip on there as long as I don't monetize the video. As long as I don't, for the lifetime on the video, I don't monetize it. And so they were going to allow it. So I decided to go ahead and leave it on there. But I thought about taking it off because even the parts which I didn't edit it, I realized it could be a little bit offensive and stuff. So I thought about taking that whole thing off. I don't really need it on there. I just thought that doing stuff like that was funny and make my videos a little bit more funner. And, people get bored out of their minds just hearing facts being thrown at them. So I thought it would just make things interesting. And so I was just doing that. I just, before my videos started becoming more and more popular. In any case, I never went through the whole process. Most of the time, that's usually what it has. It comes down to whether you want to fight it or not. If you try to fight it, there's going to be a back and forth. Now, there's only so far, I'm assuming, that you probably can go with YouTube. Because in reality, YouTube actually doesn't determine what is fair use. And I try to tell Erika this too. YouTube doesn't determine what fair use. The fact that she managed to win a fight with Answers in Genesis doesn't mean what she did was fair use. It's hard to do that with YouTube anyhow, but more than likely what probably happened was that it only got so far in it got whatever extent it got into the discussion and the back and forth between her and Answers in Genesis, and Answers in Genesis said, just let her have it. They probably could have fought it further. They probably could have taken it to court, but they just decided not to. But they only took it probably so far. But in any given case, YouTube, you can only go so far with it. eventually until you have to take it to court. But in reality, it is actually a judge that determines what is fair use. And he bases on a number of criteria, including the length of the video and whether you're taking away from the heart of the video as a result of the length. But he's actually taking into a wide variety of factors. He's actually looking at all kinds of stuff. Now, my whole point of raising it up with Erika was not intended to say how dare she do that, and I have a real problem with you doing this, and that's how she took it. Even though I repeatedly said that's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making was her lack of respect to me, her lack of respect to comments. Now he said that next time she's going that he's going to report you. The reason I said that was because she kept on showing a lack of respect for my copyright, for my videos, for me personally. And that's the reason why I said it. I kind of got mad there. That was one tangent of mad that I got. I said, well, in that case, I'm going to, report you as a result. And then I sat there, but in reality, I really don't care. Donnie uses, I actually played my entire video in full. So some people might wonder why that happened. Well, every time that's happened, either Donnie has talked to me about it or I talked to him about it. Donnie has always done it the right way. Always. He's never done it incorrectly or anything like that, or anything that disrespected me. He always said he will bring it up in either in our interview discussions, and I can put this on my channel, that sort of thing, and or he's come to me in the email, or I've talked to him, or I came to him and talked. I think the last time I came to him and I told him go ahead and promote it. Go ahead and promote the heck out of this. Go for it. And he did that. So, and usually another thing is whenever Donnie does it, it always gets subscribers. Always. I have not yet not got more subscribers as a result of him promoting my stuff. So that's why I favor that a lot more. So, but in any given case, so I actually get something out of it from doing it. And he usually only does it when he's directly involved in the interview. And now if I went up to him about some video I made, and then he might put that on his channel. But usually in most cases, it's usually done about a particular video that he was directly involved with. And I'm okay with that. I'm actually okay with that. I wouldn't even have a problem with Erika doing it, except for the fact that Erika thought it was okay to ask her live audience if it was okay to put the video on, play the full video instead of talking to me. And that's where I had the issue with. I had the issue with the lack of respect that she was showing me, and and her lack of professionalism and things like that. That was where the issue was. It was not. She made it about fair use because she has a very mixed up idea of fair use. As long as she's been on YouTube a little longer than me. She was like maybe on YouTube maybe a year or so longer than me. And you think she would know a thing or two about fair use. I would assume she would. But she knew very little about fair use. She kept throwing up transformative. It doesn't matter if it's transformative if you're playing the entire video. The whole idea is that, that she said she doubled the length of the video, or nearly doubled the length of the video. It doesn't matter if you're playing it because you can still record the heart of the issue, the heart of the arguments, the heart of the video itself, which in this case would have been me interviewing Tompkins in the first place. So it would have taken away the heart of the issue, heart of the arguments. And of course, it's the whole thing that the courts actually look through anyhow. But strangely enough, she was making an issue out of this. So she pinpointed it, made an issue out of it, argued it, tried to debate me on it, even though that was not the whole reason. Because I didn't know that she was going to debate me over this. Because the whole reason me bringing it up was not to debate her over fair use. Because this stuff is not controversial. On YouTube, it is not controversial that you're supposed to use shorter clips. You're not supposed to play the video in full. It's not controversial. Pastor Mike Winger actually got banned from the live chat one time by YouTube for a while, and because he played an entire video, this cult that leader that made some stuff or something like that, and he was responding to it, and he played the whole video, And Mike Winger actually said every bit of it was part of fair use except for one. And the one thing he admit was not in agreement with fair use was the fact that he played the whole video. So, and if you, like I said, you can watch any video on fair use. They all say the same thing. Every one of them. You can just arbitrarily pick them. Mini, miny, mo. And I guarantee you, if they talk about fair use, they will bring this up and they'll say you can't play the whole video. The whole video is taken into effect. It's better to play, in a matter. A lot of them give 15 seconds, but that's actually a myth. Because even with 15 seconds, they can still flag you over it. So that doesn't guarantee that they won't. The object of it is really just to reduce down the chances of them flagging you. And if you know that they're going to flag you for playing the whole video, or there's a chance that they could, why would you even take that risk? So, because if you get a copyright strike, 3 copyright strikes, and you're off YouTube for good, so there is no coming back from that. But anyway, let me play some clips here, because Erika seems to think she's in the right on this, and she's not. And so I'll play some clips to kind of give you an idea. Fair use here.
Fair use is an exception to copyright law and is not determined by YouTube. Here are a few things to keep in mind based on what the courts look at. You're less likely to qualify for fair use if your video merely copies someone else's and adds nothing else, if you're trying to monetize your video, if you're using fictional copyrighted material rather than factual material, if you borrowed a large amount of material rather than a small portion, if the main focus of your video is the copyright protected material, or if your use of the material harms the copyright owner's ability to profit from their original work.
Tip number 1, make it short. Before we get too deep into this tip, I want to make sure you understand something. Fair use law is a creation of lawyers and the courts. YouTube uses it as a guideline for determining whether or not they take down a video or not. However, YouTube is not a court, it's a company, and in this area, its main motivating force is not to get sued. So as a result, you could do your best to comply with all the fair use law and maybe even have a court say, yeah, that's a fair use. But the bottom line is YouTube still takes it down, and that's because they're concerned about being sued in this area. So as a result, we have to be super careful. We have to comply with fair use doctrine to a T, otherwise we risk copyright strikes. And if you get 3 copyright strikes, your channel is down.
You hear that? 3 copyright strikes, you're down. But you keep it short. That's the rule. Because we apply it to copyright law to a T just to make sure that we don't get any kind of issues with YouTube. Now, I'm going to show you the copyright law because I did present this to Erika. I did present this law to Erika. And I'll tell you what her response was to me presenting the law to Erika. All right, without further ado, let's dive in. All right, we're here at the copyright law. Okay, the fair use of the copyright law is section 107 of the copyright law. Limitations on exclusive rights, fair use. All right, you go down here and it tells you basically what these other videos have been trying to say. And look at the third one. The amount and substantiality of the portion used in relation to the copyrighted work as a whole, and then it goes on to the fourth one. So the amount and the amount and substance, which refers to the heart of the work itself, is what it means by substance. And this right here is in the copyright law. And I brought this up to Erika. You know what Erika's response was? I don't care what the copyright law says. It's all interpretive anyhow. And there is some vague issues in there. And I think that the fair use is made vague on purpose because ultimately the courts is the one who determines what's fair use and what's not. For example, it doesn't tell you how long it can be, how long you can do clips for. And so there's no set rule on how long it should be. I know a lot of YouTubers say a few seconds long. A lot of that's just because, like that one guy said, it's just to keep from being sued, or YouTube to keep from being sued by somebody. And so that's why it's always better to do a few seconds or a few minutes or something. But when you're doing commentary on somebody's work or response video, it's very hard to go a few seconds because you want to try to make sure you get the context in there. But the real major issue is not being able to play the entire video in full. Some people do get away with it, usually because they know the person that they're doing it with. And then other people, like I said, Pastor Rick Winger, for example, did not get by with it, and there are consequences for it. You know, I think he got banned from doing live videos for a while, from what he said, there's also other things that they can do. They can keep you from monetizing a video if you monetize your videos. They can take a video down. You might have a certain amount of time to take it down and that sort of thing. Or you also get a copyright strike and things like that. There's all sorts of things that could happen. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily that you might not win a battle with YouTube. It's possible that you can. But a lot of times it's just because people don't want to fight it or don't want to go all the way up until the end. You know, because when you go all the way, you can only get so far with YouTube until eventually you just have to take it to court. Because at the end of the day, it's not YouTube that determines fair use. It is the courts that determine it. Okay, here's other stuff on it. Again, you see the amount and substantive portion in relation to the copyrighted work as a whole. Under this factor, courts look at both quantity and quality of the copyrighted material that is being used. Includes a large portion of the copyrighted work. Fair use is less likely to be found if used by employees and that sort of thing. But you see it saying that in you get this over here. It says get permission to use someone else's work. You can ask for it. How can I find out who owns a copyright? Okay, how can I obtain copyright copies? How much of someone else's work I use without getting permission? He said, under fair use doctrine of the U.S. copyright statute, it is permissible to use limited portions of a work, including quotes, for purposes such as commentary, criticisms, news reporting, and scholarly reports. There are no legal rules permitting the use of a specific number of words, a certain number of musical notes, or percentage of a work. Whether a particular use qualifies as fair use if it depends on all circumstances and that sort of thing. So it's not just if you transformative, that's great, but it's not just on the basis of transformative. It would have to look at all that's involved, including if you're using the whole work and if you capture the heart of the work itself. Hello, I'm just adding this as I'm editing it. I'm adding it in post. I'm adding it while I'm editing this. I just realized, or not just realized, but I wanted to say this realization. But I realized that Erika does not know what transformative is either. Transformative is when you add new expression and meaning to the copyrighted material. That means it no longer carries the meaning it originally did in the copyrighted material, but carries new meaning in the copyrighted material. That you're adding something new to the copyrighted material as a result. It has nothing to do with doubling the length. Now, there are ways to do that through commentary. A good example of that, most YouTubers are aware of a YouTuber named Cyberwolf. She has a lot of this channel on there where she makes all these funny comments on different clips she shows and things like that. The way she does that is an example of transformative. There are ways you could do it through commentary like she does, and that's transformative. You don't play the whole video. You don't play the entire setting, everything there is to know about it, but she'll play a single clip, and in that clip she'll make some sort of funny expression about it, some sort of weird interpretation, whatever the case may be, something to make us laugh and entertain us. It's not intended to educate us or nothing, but you get the picture. It adds new expression and meaning to the copyrighted material. I did that earlier also. I added a clip in there when I was talking about the history and origin of true doxing, with dropping documents. I added a very short few-second clip where Ian Malcolm says droppings, like that. But Ian Malcolm doesn't mean the same thing I meant by droppings, right? He meant something else in reference to the context of Jurassic Park. But I was sitting there referring to the dropping of documents, and because we're both using the same word, dropping, I put that in there, just something fun to throw in there, a few seconds long or whatever. But that would be an example of transformative, because I added new expression and meaning to the copyrighted material. Instead, because obviously we're not talking about the same thing, right? So added new meaning expression in the context I put it in. And it was only a few seconds long. Transformative doesn't mean you copy the whole video and then you comment on it and you lengthen the video, therefore that makes it transformative. That's not transformative. I don't think she understands what transformative is. There are ways of doing transformative through commentary, like what we see through Cyberwolf. She does that. That is transformative. That's an example of a commentary that is done through transformative. And you could tell it's transformative. She doesn't play the full things, full videos. She plays it in clips like she's supposed to. And in addition to that, she adds new meaning and expression to the copyrighted material. That's what you're supposed to do, even in commentary. If simply doing commentary on it, because any commentary is going to lengthen the video length, right? Any commentary is going to do that. So if that was all it takes to be transformative, then every response video, every commentary, I think response videos qualify as a type of commentary on the video. Every single type of situation where you're doing comment on it would qualify under fair use, and therefore you could never breach copyright at all when doing a response video, which I'm assuming is what Erika is trying to get at. But in reality, that's not the case. You can still violate someone's copyright. You can still violate fair use and do things that are not fair use, provable by fair use through commentary. So so that's just not the case. And so I don't think Erika understands what transformative is. I just wanted to add that in there real quick because, like I said, I was really surprised by how little she knew about fair use, especially given the fact that she's been on YouTube longer than me. That's fair use. So I'm not wrong on that. You can look it up. You can watch YouTube videos. You can do all kinds of stuff. And they all say the same thing. You could pick any YouTube video on fair use you want to do. I've seen, chances are I've probably seen either I've seen them all or I've seen almost all of them on YouTube. But you could probably go mini, mighty, mo, and they'll say it. Literally just arbitrarily just, close your eyes and pick one. And they'll say it. I'm not making this stuff up, okay? But for some reason, Erika wanted to debate me on it. I don't know why. Just another real quick thing I wanted to add in post while I was editing it. I wanted to add a few extra words to that. I originally, like I said before, I don't really care that it's not about... I was not trying to debate her over fair use. She's actually the one who tried to debate me over fair use because I made a single statement about it. But my whole point was her lack of respect and professionalism. I was not, because she asked her live audience. She didn't talk to me about it. She played my video full. Fair use doesn't cover that. Now, she's the one who went all out trying to debate me over fair use, which kind of surprised me because she knows very little about fair use. Why in the world is she debating me about this? She doesn't even understand what transformative is supposed to mean, what they mean by transformative. She doesn't understand any of those things. And so why is she debating me about fair use? I don't know. I wouldn't have cared. I really wouldn't have cared. If Erika came to me and said, hey, Brian, I'm going to play your entire video in full, even if it's not done in a way that asks if it's okay with me. I'd rather she ask if it's okay with me. That would be even better. But... if she just came and just talked to me about it or something, I would be okay with it. I wouldn't have cared. Okay? That's not what she did. Instead, she ended up asking her live audience. I do not know why. And I told her this several times. That was not the point. What I said about fair use is not controversial. Not at all. It's expressed by other YouTubers outside of those that talk about fair use. The ones that do talk about fair use always bring it up. Always. And so I'm not saying something that's just revolutionary. So I wasn't really trying to debate Erika over fair use. What I said wasn't controversial. You could, find this on any fair use video. They all say it. And so I think, and Erika doesn't mention this. In the clip that I showed where she's talking to her audience, she doesn't even mention the fact that I brought up that the main point of all of this was not to debate fair use, but rather because of her lack of respect and professionalism. That was the point. That was the whole point. And so it was not intended to debate, because this wasn't controversial. I didn't even know she would raise that much of an issue with what I said on that, because it's not controversial at all. And I told her this too several times. It's not overly controversial. It's not something that people are like, oh no, I have no idea if you can play the full video or not. They know they're not supposed to. Now, some people do get away with it. A lot of times it's because, we're all YouTubers, and most YouTubers understand. And we're probably not likely to get into a flagging war and try to flag each other all the time. Other times it's just because they know the person in question that they're doing the video about. Maybe because the way that person is, maybe they won't flag them. Or maybe they have misguided ideas about fair use like Erika does. I don't know. But they'll always flag them over it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's right. It just means that there are people that get away with it. That's fine. I usually always ask permission. And also another thing I thought about on the Answers in Genesis one. This one occurred to me while I was doing the editing. It's also possible, because I've seen how Erika does responses. In a lot of her stuff, she does it almost like in a form of a series. Like she has multiple videos dedicated to something like that. And it's always a possibility that she doesn't show the whole video. Now, in some cases she does, in some videos, but in other videos she may just do it in parts, like this section showing this part and that section, and that might be iffy. I don't know whether someone could flag you over that, even though it's in multiple parts. They probably could flag you over it, but I don't know if they'd win a case or not. But in the case of my situation with Erika, I'm talking about in one sitting, so doing it all at once. Where you just play the video. Now, I think there are cases where she's done that. Maybe even with Answers in Genesis, played it all in one sitting. Probably shouldn't have done that. I know she shouldn't have done that. At least not without talking to them about it or whatnot. But she doesn't think she has to, but she should. Yeah. Of course, there's also ethics issues involved and so forth too. But everyone agrees on it. So I don't know why she started debating me over it. I really don't. All I know is she was in the wrong. That was not the point of the reason I brought it up. Because honestly, I really didn't care that much that she played my full video. It was her lack of respect that was the issue. And that's what I kept trying to bring up to her. And she did not understand, or she didn't want to understand. And even now when she's talking to her audience, she doesn't tell them any of that. Even though I said that over and over again, that was the whole point. Even when we were doing our conclusions in the discussion, I even told her that was the whole point of me bringing it up. Because what I said about fair use was not controversial. So I didn't expect a whole debate over fair use at all. She made it sound like I got into a debate with her about fair use and the correct understanding of fair use, and it's like, no, she got into the debate with me over fair use. I just said a single statement about fair use that was not controversial and was not the main point of the reason why I even said it. And she just went off and started debating me over fair use, and that's how it went in our email exchange. And but again, my statement wasn't controversial, and in the process, she showed just how little she knew about fair use. If she knows that little about fair use, she probably shouldn't be trying to debate people over it. I'm just saying. Because all someone has to do is show videos. Which, by the way, I did. One of the videos that I showed clips from, the very first one that I showed clips from, I actually put that in the email to her as a video on fair use. It's a very good one. And it goes through there, and it talks about all the different avenues and the fair use and what courts look to and that sort of thing. And in that same video, I didn't play it, but in that same video, she actually talks about transformative as well, and she actually said the exact same thing I did, that transformative is when you add new expression and meaning to the copyrighted material. So, yeah, Erika knows very little about this whole situation of copyright and fair use, and she's been on YouTube longer than me, so that's surprising. I would expect that she would know more about fair use than I do, but she knows less. Probably because I actually went out and researched it when I first found out what fair use was, and I'm like, wow, that's cool. Exactly what qualifies as fair use, and I just went out and started researching it and studying it and watching every video I could find on it, and there's lots of YouTube videos on it on fair use. So there's really no excuse for her not knowing this information. So my guess is that she's not even trying to actually go out and look it up. I quoted the law to her. She didn't care what the law says, and said I could quote it to her as many times as I want to. It doesn't matter. She thinks it's interpretive anyway. So she didn't seem to understand what transformative was, and I honestly doubt she even watched the video that I sent her through email. Be honest, I doubt she watched any of the videos on fair use, because I just don't think that she bothered to actually take the time to actually go out and study it, look it up, look the information up, watch videos on it, and actually got familiar with what qualifies as fair use. If she's not even understanding what transformative is, and that's her main argument for her video here, because it's doubles the length of the video, then what am I gonna say to that? She shouldn't be debating this. She should not be debating it. It's not a controversial subject matter. It's not something that people wonder. Even a lot of other YouTubers, I've noted that you're allowed to use other people's work if you use it in the form of short clips, like I do, and that sort of thing. Now, if I'm going to use a full video of somebody, if I'm going to play a full video of somebody, whether in a series or as an individual video, I always get the permission. Like when I did the debate review between Aquinas and the Ark Ministry guy, I think his name was Kevin. When I did the debate review between that, I did a series on that. I actually reached out to Aquinas and got his permission, and he said, yeah, I'm not gonna flag you or nothing. Go for it. So I reached out to him on Facebook. He told me to contact him on Facebook about it. So I did, and he was okay with it. He was okay with it, and so I did, and that's on YouTube. But I got his permission when I did the video series responding to or doing a debate review with Jonathan McClatchy and Matt Dillahunty. I actually reached out to James Coons, who's has the Modern Day Debate channel, and I asked him. He said, yeah, thank you for asking. Yeah, sure, you can do that. And so I had his permission to do that. So it's always much more respectful and much more courteous, and it also reduces down the chances of flagging. Now, does the person have to flag you if you do it? No, they don't have to flag you. Most YouTubers probably won't flag you over it. It doesn't mean it's not. It doesn't mean that what you're doing is fair use. It doesn't make it what you're doing fair use. It just means that YouTubers know that people use other people's materials and all the time on YouTube, and we're fellow YouTubers, and I wouldn't have even cared. It's not just about the fact that she used my work. It's the fact that she showed lack of respect and professionalism in the process. That was what I was trying to say, and I've said this to her several times, including in the email exchange. But for some strange reason, she wanted to debate fair use, and she knew very little about fair use. She obviously doesn't know a lot about it. That's obvious. But anyway, I just wanted to really point that out. Let's continue with her rants there.
Then, in trying to figure out what I did in my original Jeffrey Tompkins videos, Brian reached out to the textbook writer, the textbook author of Blast, Dr. Ian Korf. They had conversations back and forth for a while, and then Dr. Ian Korf reached out to me and was like, who is this guy, and also, who are you? He told me he very much was not a friend of young Earth creationism and would be happy to help me in any of my Blast endeavors, and so he did. I ran a lot of things by Dr. Korf, and I just wanted to share that I thought it was very funny that Dr. Korf reached out to me after having a singular conversation with Brian, because apparently Brian waited till very late in the conversation to reveal that he's a young Earth creationist. That's his prerogative.
All right, she mentioned my exchange with Dr. Korf. Okay, first of all, her statement about me mentioning late in the conversation. Actually, I didn't really talk about me being a young Earth creationist at the time I talked with Dr. Korf. And the reason is because I don't go up to people and introduce myself as Brian, the Young Earth Creationist. Hi, I'm Brian, the Young Earth Creationist. How you doing? Does she go up to people and say, hi, I'm Erika, the Evolutionist? People don't usually do that, addressing that, especially when the conversation isn't even about Young Earth Creationism. It wasn't about over the age of the Earth. It wasn't over religion. It wasn't over non-religion. It wasn't over, creationism versus evolution. It wasn't over that. I came to Dr. Korf, as he himself noted, with very specific questions about Blast. That's all I was trying to do. And I even told him later in an email that I was not after the Ian Korf, the evolutionist. I was after Ian Korf, the Blast expert. So I was reaching him out on Blast. And by the way, he also helped me out on several endeavors. She said he helped her out, but she's going to use an outdated statement that Dr. Korf changed his mind about Tompkins' study, and she ended up using that without realizing that he no longer holds to that view that was very relevant to Tompkins' study. Now, that doesn't mean he agrees with E-value 10, but E-value 10 was only used on at least as far as regularly, it was used on two papers, as 2013 and 2015 paper. Tompkins didn't usually use the E-value 10. He usually used the E-value of 0.1. That's in his most recent work he used that. But in his 2011, he used like 5 different E-values. Show my hand here. Five different E-values. And he used that in his 2011 paper, and one of them was 10, but so was 0.1, so was 1,000, so was 0.00001, 4 zeros on the right side of the decimal, if I counted that right. 4 zeros on the right side of the decimal plus 1. So that's my favorite E-value because that's really low. We talked about E-values in the last video. But Dr. Korf no longer thinks that E-value would affect that much. I mean, he thinks it affected a little bit. You don't want any random background noise in the background, but he thinks there would be some, but he thinks that there would be like a 1% effectiveness to it. So it wouldn't affect it much, and a lot of these would have occurred at the very bottom of search results and stuff. So it would affect it a little bit, but not a lot, not enough to push for any 85% number or anything like that. So Dr. Korf no longer holds that position on Tompkins' study, but apparently Erika didn't get the memo. If she had seen my video, Controlling the Narrative, the one that she's supposed to be responding to here, she would have actually known that, because I actually mentioned that in the video, because I did show the clip where we talked about E-values, and I did mention that Korf no longer holds this position regarding Tompkins' study. So you should take that with a grain of salt, because he did at the time, but he no longer takes that. And so he just kind of reverted back to what I think in terms of the search results having spurious alignments in it as a result of not masking the repeats and things like that. That's what he really thinks presently. Erika apparently is still holding on to the E-value argument, even though he doesn't really think that's a whole lot of effectiveness to Tompkins' study. In a little bit, she's going to sit there and go into that, and we're going to cover. I think I'm going to be covering a clip that she has on Ian Korf as well, so we're going to show that too. But anyway, but let's just let her finish that thought. She's about to go in some. She's about to go into some nonsensical stuff about the emails and stuff that I sent. But I'm going to let her finish that rant.
I would show you some of these email exchanges, but I honestly just don't think it's worth the time going through any of them. You'll just have to take my word for it that they are very, very funny, and that a lot of them are poorly written is what I'm going to go with. They're not written with, like, a lot of excellent grammar, and oftentimes it seems like Brian doesn't 100% know what he's talking about.
All right. Okay, this is ridiculous. This whole thing was nonsense. Okay, first of all, I told her specifically that I did not give her permission to show my emails, and she didn't mention that part. So this was kind of a little bit misleading and dishonest. She might had other reasons for not wanting to release that, but I did tell her that I didn't, and she said, well, there's nothing interesting here anyhow to show on her channel. But I told her I wasn't going to give her permission for it. And why wouldn't I give her permission? Here's why. Because for one thing, I don't trust Erika. She takes people out of contacts, and she has a tendency to do that a lot. She did that a lot with my Tompkins interview. She took me out of contacts. She took Dr. Jeffrey Tompkins out of contacts. She likes to take people out of contacts, put words in their mouth they didn't say, and twist around what their actual meaning is. And she misinterprets things a lot. I've said this before that, I like the joke where I would say that, if Erika told me that the sky was blue, I'd have to check up just to make sure that it's the case. She makes a lot of mistakes. She makes a lot of errors. Some of them I wonder if it's even intentional that she's making them. And she takes people out of context a lot. And so I don't trust Erika not to twist around what I actually say. Another reason why I didn't sit there and want her to show the emails is because it conveys my personal information, including my email address, which you can find my email address, but I'd rather sit there and someone actually find it by, because I gave it in the description box, or because they checked my email from my website and that sort of thing. Then sit there and just find it because Erika just throws my information out there on the internet. And of course, I don't trust Erika to blur it right. I've never seen her blur anything. I've done it once, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work involved. You have to track the blur and things like that, and all kinds of stuff like that. And I don't trust her to do that properly and adequately, to the point where my information is covered up. And so I didn't want her to get permission to use my email as a result. And I told her this. And so she's not conveying that information. The fact that I told her I didn't give permission for it. I don't know why she's not saying that, but that's the case. But in any case, she said that they're kind of funny. There's nothing funny about them. I don't know why she thinks that if I disagree with her, that's funny. Like I said, if disagreements is funny, then she's a riot. I mean, she's a regular class clown. If disagreement is supposed to be funny. But anyway, any given case, she said they're poorly written. That's something she's attacked before when she did a response to my comments on Critic Hines, because she misrepresented our position on that. And she likes to target that claim that they're poorly written. She doesn't really spell out, what grammatical errors I allegedly committed. She doesn't do any of that. She just kind of throws out this general statement that she thinks that they are poorly written. First of all, okay, I'm writing an email to an individual. I'm not writing a paper. Okay, I'm not doing a peer review paper. I'm not doing a research paper. I'm not doing a paper for a professor. Which, by the way, my research papers don't have that much grammatical errors in it. So you think that the professor would call it if it did. If it has any, it's very few. It's very few. With email exchanges, though, I'm probably going to watch what I say and how I say it a lot more. I mean, I'm not talking about rhetorically. Rhetorically, obviously, I would. And I wouldn't be insulting or blatantly offensive or anything. But what I'm saying is that how I write something, I'm not trying to write a paper. So I'm not going all out to have perfect spelling or perfect grammar or anything like that. And so why does it matter that if my emails are not written like I'm writing a paper or something? So what? And what's that got to do with the content or the arguments? Nothing. Nothing whatsoever. So this is just ridiculous. I usually refer to this fallacy as appealing to particulars. Sometimes people like to appeal to the nonsensical stuff, like they become a spelling Nazi, or they want to point out grammatical errors, or if sometimes I do typos. Sometimes if I'm typing real fast in the comment section, I'll get typos, and that happens. And of course, other people do it to me as well. But we're not writing research papers here. We're not writing peer review papers. We're not writing for a journal. I'm not writing a book. So the expectation is much lower when you're doing an email. So I don't understand, but it has nothing to do with my arguments at all. But she likes to, again, this is another cheap shot. She likes to attack that I'm not perfecting my grammar and these kinds of things, but I'm not writing a paper to start with. And secondly, she never gives me any kind of specifics. She always just kind of generally says it. So what grammatical mistakes am I making exactly? She doesn't say. She never says. And third of all, Why does it matter? Because the real issue should be the arguments, the content of what I'm saying. That should be the more important thing. So it does not matter whether I write like Shakespeare or I write like the average Joe of the street. It doesn't matter. What matters is the arguments that I'm presenting, the statements, the facts that I'm claiming, the arguments I'm making, the statements I'm saying, the content. That's what matters. And trying to point out grammatical issues and stuff like that, it's just silly. It's nonsensical.
Or have like a background in any of these subjects. He talks a
That's another thing that she said. She said I don't look like I know 100% what I'm talking about. Actually, if you look at the emails, I actually went over the emails a few days ago just to kind of look and see. And every single time I did look like I knew 100% what I was talking about. I backed it up. I presented that law. I mentioned I presented the copyright law to her. She said she didn't care about what that law says, pretty much. She said that it's all vague and interpretive and stuff. Yeah, but it's still got some specific stuff in it. Even though it's vague in other areas, it's specific enough for you to know that, and that sort of thing. And I showed you all these other statements as well. And I linked all kinds of stuff to her, and I tried to emphasize things to her because she kept confusing me, saying that you're supposed to get permission to play the entire video from responding to it. He said, I don't need your permission to respond to it. I said, yeah, I agree. You don't need my permission to respond. That's not what I'm saying. And she kept misunderstanding me, and I think a lot of her misunderstandings were intentional. She was intentionally trying to misunderstand me, and that sort of thing. But I didn't 100% know what I was talking about. She said you didn't have background in this area. That's what she just kept you saying. Didn't look like you had background in the area. For start with, why would I need background in an area to look at the law, the copyright law, in the first place? And plus, second of all, I'm actually appealing to people that do have backgrounds in these areas. People like Rob Carter or, that sort of thing. And when I cited definitions to her online concerning doxing, I was using people who had backgrounds in cybersecurity. So, it's funny because she cites Wikipedia to me. And Wikipedia is not a scholarly source. It's not an academic source. And the reason why is because you have no idea who wrote that article, because the author is not mentioned in it. Up until recently, they didn't even have to put sources on there. Now I think that Wikipedia changed it where you actually have to put sources on it. But the sources could be anything. Could be you could say, hey, the source supports this position. You look at that source up and it doesn't. So, you just have to put it in there to fill that space up in Wikipedia. But you have no idea who's writing it, so you don't know what their background is. You don't know, and on top of that, other people can come in and edit that source. And you have no idea who the editors are either. So you have no idea who wrote it. You have no idea who edited it. And you have no idea if any of these people have backgrounds in any of this area. And yet you're citing Wikipedia to me. Some of our critics also try to cite the Wikipedia definition as well, which I didn't fully disagree with the Wikipedia definition. I mean, I think that's definitely part of doxing and everything. But more than likely, if you went further in Wikipedia, it'll probably go into more details. They usually do go into much more details in terms of the nature of doxing and what doxing actually is and that sort of thing. And so that's probably what they did. But in any given case, the point is that I was using people with backgrounds in cybersecurity. And she was quoting to me Wikipedia. Okay, yeah. And she thinks I'm talking about stuff I don't have backgrounds in. But yeah, anyway, I did know 100% why. And it's funny she should say that. She talks about stuff that she has no background in. She has no background in genetics, but she's talking about that constantly, both in the emails as well as in these videos and discussion stuff. She has zero background in genetics. So it's weird that she should point that out. And funny thing is, she actually took me out of context. I'm going to probably have a video in the Topic of Controversy series called Out of Context, in which I'm going to actually deal with the references that she made in that video where she takes me out of context. One of the places was that I said that none of the people responding, are geneticists, and she took that as me. I said that you couldn't even talk about genetics. You couldn't even talk about genetics unless you're a geneticist, or you couldn't know what you're talking about unless you're a geneticist on genetics. And I never said that. And she even put words in my mouth later in that video to make it look like, who said that you can't even talk about genetics? No, I never said that. I didn't say that at all. She put words in my mouth. But I am planning on doing a video that's going to respond to those specific allegations. That's one of the reasons why I didn't want to show the email, because she takes people out of context. And so I was afraid she was going to do that. But she has no background in these stuff either. So it's like, what the heck? What in the world's going on here? She has no background in it. She has, and she accused me of not having background in it. And so that's kind of special pleading. And on top of that, the people that I cite, the links that I made, I backed up everything I said in it. So it wouldn't matter what I didn't have a background in. So I think she's making some general attacks that are erroneous and are not true. Further false allegations she is leveling toward me. But that's not the case. If you actually read my emails, and I went over them, and I backed up what I said and things like that. So, yeah. The fact that I don't have a background in everything I say doesn't mean the people that I'm citing, the links that I posted, and things like that are irrelevant.
A lot about working with Dr. Robert Carter from the video that you might have just seen, where Robert Carter actually agrees with me on the veracity of Jeffrey Tompkins' methods.
I like to add another thing in post. The interesting thing is that she mentioned Rob Carter and her, that he agreed with her on the veracity of Tompkins' work. Not exactly. He disagreed. He had certain issues with Tompkins' work, and he didn't agree with Tompkins' conclusion, but he also didn't disagree with Erika either. He isn't on Erika's side. In fact, he probably leans closer to Tompkins than he does to Erika, even though he differs with his conclusion. He thinks that he's actually not even committing to a particular number. I know he said 94% in his video, but when I talked to him recently through email, he said his whole point in the video series was to not be committal to a particular number, to not be committed to a specific percentage number. And so he wasn't trying to, he was just trying to stay as high as he could possibly go and then work his way from that point. That was the whole point of what he was trying to do. And he still doesn't commit to a particular percentage number. He thinks it might be a little higher than where Tompkins was, but then again, Tompkins was also doing this study back in 2018, so it could be a little higher than what Tompkins came up with in 2018. That doesn't mean anything. It just means that Tompkins' study, needs to be upgraded, and a new study needs to be made. And I'm thinking that there's a study around the block on that, but I'm not going to reveal that information yet. Some information came in from Dr. Carter that makes me think that another study may be on the rise. I don't know. Some very new development stuff happened, but I'm not going to go into detail on that. But it's cool. I think that maybe it's. I told Dr. Carter it'd be great if him and Tompkins worked together and really confused the critics on this and do a study on this. But anyway, they're not really against each other. They're actually friends. But he disagreed with Carter disagreed with the conclusions that Tompkins had made in his 2018 study, the last study that he did, as well as his other studies, but not necessarily all not for the reasons that Erika disagrees with him. So the differences vary. What Erika did was she heard that he disagreed with him and then assumed that he's on her side. Newsflash, Erika, and I've told you this ain't really news. I've told you this several times. I've told Rueb several times. Carter is not on your side. He does not agree with you. Most of the time, the vast majority of the time, he tends to disagree with you. And the kind of errors that he's exposed that you've made are much more higher up. And I noticed that you repeat a lot of the same mistakes that you made when you talked to me through email and on some of your videos, things like your response to the accessory sequences and how you're not doing an entire genetic study, but yet that's exactly what you're doing because you're testing both methods. What you call the good method and Tompkins method, which I don't think that you replicated Tompkins method correctly, because you did a global percent alignment, at least in your original video. You did a global percent alignment for the, at least I think you did. You did a global percent alignment for the self to self. So this makes me think that if you're doing that also when you're doing the genetic testing, then you're gonna get inaccurate results. You're not gonna get results, and that's probably why you're actually off of Tompkins' actual results. But in any given case, why it's not exact, but because Tompkins isn't using that method, isn't doing a global percent of the entire thing, of all the search results like that. He's taking the best alignment, which I haven't seen your new stuff, so I don't know if you're taking the best alignment there or still doing the global percent thing. But I know the global percent thing was, at first I thought it was just because you didn't know what you were doing. But I'm starting to think that it's because y'all honestly think that this is what Tompkins did, and it's not. It's not what Tompkins did. But in any given case, and it might be a little bit of you not knowing what you're doing. But in any given case, I wanted to add that in a little bit. I'm editing the video still. I'm hoping to try to hurry and get done with it. But I saw that I was thinking that today, and I saw that apparently I hadn't gotten to it yet, and I've just now got to the part where you mentioned Carter agrees with you. Carter does not agree with you. I have told you this. I have personally told you this. He disagrees with you. What Carter did was he took kind of a middle ground between Tompkins and Erika. He didn't take Erika's position. He didn't take Tompkins' position. He said, this is what I think. And he went straight in the middle. And here's the thing. He actually didn't, even then, he didn't commit to a particular number. I know it seems like it because he mentions the 94%. But when I asked him about it, he said that his purpose, it was not to commit to a particular number. He was trying to be non-committal about the number, but rather instead just say that he thinks it's going to ultimately fall between it. I mean, he could still be correct. It could still fall somewhere in between because, I mean, after all, Tompkins did this study in 2018. And one thing that nobody seems to be getting this in this controversy is the fact that Tompkins did the study in 2018, and a lot of things changed. And Tompkins is just the product of what anytime someone does a scientific study, they're always the product of their day. Okay, so we have to always keep that in mind, and so a certain level of grace needs to be exercised to Tompkins because of that. Doesn't mean Tompkins is doing something wrong. It just means that he's limited on the resources he has available to him at that time. And a lot of people doesn't want to give him that grace. A lot of people don't want to give him that room to maneuver. Yes, the numbers are probably going to be different now if you use the modern resources, but that doesn't mean that he was wrong in 2018. So you got to keep that in mind. You could say that what Carter's doing is he's basically saying, I don't think the number is that way now, which I think Carter is probably even correct, but I don't think that it's above 90%. Me and Carter even talked about this earlier. I'm open to it being above 90%, but I think it's probably going to be less than 90%. He said that him and Richard Buggs talked about it. Richard Buggs don't think it's going to come to 90%. I agree with Richard Buggs. I don't think it's going to come to 90%. He said Carter said he's less certain. He thinks it might be above 90%, but he doesn't know. He didn't want to commit to it one way or the other. So, and I understand why, because, you don't want to commit to a percentage, and then when all the smoke's clear, you find out, hey, I was wrong in what I thought. But he doesn't want to commit to it. I'm not committing to a particular percentage per se. I'm not saying it is definitely 85%. Because I don't know. We don't have all the information yet. We're still getting all the information, but we might be closer than we think on that information. A lot of that has to do with the information I just got from Carter earlier, but I'm not gonna spill the beans on that one. I'm just gonna let that ride and see what develops from it. And then if something really cool develops from it, maybe we'll talk about it then. But right now, I'm just kind of letting it soak in, and I don't know if anyone knows what to do with this information yet. But so I'm just I'm gonna let it ride right now. But anyway, but I don't, I don't commit to a particular number because I don't know what it's going to be. But I don't think it's going to be above 90%. I think it's going to probably be less than 90%. Maybe in the high 80s, possibly around 88%, 87%, maybe 89% if we're pushing it. And I'm talking about once the unalignable regions of the genome are factored in. I'm not talking about when you just consider the alignable. If you consider the alignable regions, I think it's going to come above 90% for sure. Whether you use Tompkins' method or whether you used secular methods of doing it, whatever the case may be, I think it's going to come above 90% with the alignable regions. And I think that the unalignable ones, though, is going to drop that number. And so I think that it's probably going to wind up being anywhere between 87 to 89% is why I'm just guesstimating here, but you know, I'm thinking that it's going to be somewhere in there. But so it'll be interesting to see what happens as a result of that. But Carter is not. Carter's actually closer to Tompkins than he is with Erika, and Erika doesn't understand that. She thinks she's under the impression that Carter's on the side, and it gets even worse because she's not only under the impression that Carter is on her side on Tompkins, because Erika seems to be under the impression that I'm trying to defend Tompkins' study. The purpose of this, if she actually watched any of these videos, to be honest, if she even watched the very first video on Richard Bugs, I would be absolutely blown away, because I don't think she has. I don't think she's watched any of these video response series. She might have watched snippets here and there, or a few minutes here, but I'd be very, very, very surprised to find out she did. I mean, if she's being honest or something and say she did or something, I'll be very surprised at that. Because it doesn't seem like it is, and she makes a lot of mistakes. She doesn't understand my series at all. She thinks I'm out to try to defend Tompkins' study. I'm actually not out to defend Tompkins' study. The purpose of my response video series was not to defend Tompkins' study. I said that at the very beginning of it, actually. The very first video, I said it was not intended to defend Tompkins' study. My goal is to defend the truth, whatever the truth is, where it falls with Tompkins, Carter, Erika, whoever it falls, or none of the above. Whatever it falls, that was the object of it. I used Richard Bugs' arguments as a foundation for this series because he does factor in the unalignable regions, whereas Tompkins does not factor in the unalignable. He's aware of the unalignable regions. He talks about it even in his 2018 paper, but he doesn't factor it in, at least not in his 2018 paper. He doesn't factor in the unalignable regions. He's aware of it, but he doesn't factor them in. I was thinking today, I think the reason why Tompkins slices it up the way he does and smaller in various lengths is because he's trying to include more of the genetic information. Even then, it's going to have unalignable regions, of course, but he's trying to get more of the genetic information that would not normally be aligned to align by doing it in various lengths. It's very unorthodox. It's not the way geneticists typically do it. I get that, but it is the way in which Tompkins did it in order to try to get more genetic information to be evaluated. Something that could not normally do with the way BLAST is. And of course, if you don't do it Tompkins' way, then you could get a high 90 percentile number. It wouldn't be the true number, like if you get like 96%, and you're automatically thinking, oh, we're 96% similar to chimps and 4% different. In reality, we're actually far more different and less similar. Because what alignment algorithms do is that they look for alignments. Now, you can have differences in these alignments, but they're not going to be great. Because if there's a lot of differences, it's just not going to align those particular areas. Because there's no alignment to align, So it's not going to align them. So there's going to be all kinds of differences within the genome that's not going to be able to be lined up. There's differences between humans and chimps that's not going to be lined up. Once you factor in the alignable regions, the regions of the genome, your pool of data, it's going to, let me see if I can get my fingers in here. Your pool of data is going to increase, okay? It's going to widen out, okay? There's going to be a lot more information that it's going to be included. And when this happens, it's going to, since most of these are going to be differences, this means that the similarities are going to decrease and the differences are going to increase. And so what it's going to do to your percent identity is it's going to drop it. And so what happens a lot of times is the evolutionist geneticists of these unalignable regions. Dr. Korf even talked to me about it. He is aware of it. They're all aware of it. But what happens is that they end up ignoring this information. And what I think they should do, and I told Dr. Korf this through email once as well, I think that they should factor in these differences. I think they should recalculate them in. That's what Bugs did. He recalculated it back into it, into the percent identity. And this is what I think they should do. They don't do it. They ignore it. And so I think that, but when you hear numbers like 96%, 99%, 98%, it can be very misleading. Because in reality, the truth of the matter is that the percent similarity is much less, where the differences are much greater. Because when you look at yourself, you can say atomically, I look a lot more than 2% different than a chimp. A lot more than that. So the reality is that these kinds of numbers don't reflect reality. But they're being propagated. They're being promoted as if they reflect reality. But they don't. But anyway, as far as what Carter and Tompkins said, Tompkins and Carter are not as far away as Carter is from Erika. And so this idea, Carter sides with me. No, he does not. He doesn't side with you. He just doesn't take Tompkins' conclusion, and he doesn't take it for different reasons than you do. But he doesn't agree with you at all. In fact, he probably disagrees with you more than he does Dr. Jeffrey Tompkins. He disagrees with you a lot more. And so I wouldn't sit there and assume that somehow Dr. Carter's your newfound buddy and he's on your side, and he's not. When he disagrees with Tompkins, he actually disagrees with him for different reasons from what you disagree with him on. He doesn't think that that's the case with that you did think it is, and he disagrees with you, even at the fundamental level. So don't assume that Carter's on your side. Ruhib made that mistake as well. Carter's not on your side. I've talked with him many times about that. He doesn't agree with y'all on a lot of issues and a lot of arguments, including y'all's conclusions. So don't sit there and assume he's on your side. He's not.
And so, that kind of makes me think that my emails are going directly from Brian to, Rob Carter's inbox, they're getting forwarded. And, that's speculation, of course, but I wish if Rob Carter had questions about, my methods or, what I've done, that he would just ask me directly. Again, I can't prove it. I feel like that is on the table here. I feel like Robert Carter wants to know more about what I did, but doesn't want to ask.
All right. We're going to have to spend a little time in this one. All right. Her speculation is false, and I have corrected her on this multiple times because she has brought this up to me. She has this standing conspiracy theory that I must be taking her emails and forwarding it to Rob Carter, and she thinks Rob Carter might have a inkling to want to know what she did and didn't do. And it's like, no. Every time I've asked her a question, it's because I wanted to know it. But we don't. I've never asked her. But as far as Rob Carter wanting to know what she did. No, he never asked me that. In fact, the only time Rob Carter sent me an email directly once on his own without me emailing him first. And the email that he sent me was because it was over an ongoing conversation that we had over Erika's self-to-self analysis, and he did an experiment, and he was excited about it, and he contacts me, things like that. And of course, I can confide in Rob Carter because he is a geneticist. He's a biologist as well, and he deals with all these things and does these experiments, and he's really smart. He's a really smart guy, and I trust him as well. And so me and him have had some back and forth, and we've had some talking discussions, and he's cleared out things. He helped me a little bit out with the self-to-self analysis and that sort of thing. And of course, just like Erika has people that she confides in, I have people that I confide in as well for information and stuff, because I'm not a geneticist. So of course, I'm going to look toward people that are geneticists, in a discussion about genetics, and have discussions with them as well. And I've reached out, and I didn't just reach out to creationist geneticists. I've also reached out to evolution geneticists. More than likely, they're evolutionists. I doubt she actually confided with creationist geneticists. That's something that I have done. I have talked to creationist geneticists and evolutionary geneticists, and I confide in people, and they're experts in blast and things like that. And Dr. Korf is not the only one that I've contacted with blast. He's the one that I was most frequently in contact with, but he's not the only one I've been in contact with, and things like that. And I do that, and I confide in these other people because they know what they're talking about on these issues and arguments. And I might not agree with them on everything. I mean, there's worldview issues and things and assumptions and things like that we can debate about. But I was mainly targeting what they knew about that specific issue, that specific argument. More on Ian Korf. I'm gonna talk a little bit more on that in a minute. I thought that she would have more to say on that, but she didn't. And I actually can demonstrate what Erika said about me forwarding emails to Carter as incorrect, as false. And I've corrected this on this several times. I can only assume that Erika thinks that I'm lying about it, that maybe I'm doing it even though I've told her I didn't. One time I told her I do confide in Carter about certain things, and she's like, that's what I figured. And I'm like, this isn't a ha-ha, got you kind of situation. Just like you confide in other people for your information, so do I. So, but as far as Carter bringing Erika up, wanting to know what Erika did, no, he never has. And as far as me forwarding her emails to it, I actually have a way of demonstrating that I didn't do that. So before I get more into talking about Dr. Ian Korf, I'm going to talk a little bit more about it because I thought she was going to bring it up a little bit more, but she didn't. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But before I do that, I want to cover a way. I have a way of proving that I did not forward Erika's emails to Dr. Carter, and I have not forwarded Dr. Carter's email to Erika. And I can show this through my email account without one conveying any personal information from either of them. So you won't see their email addresses or anything like that. And two, without showing any emails from either of them. So nobody can accuse me of doing something immoral, like showing emails without permission or anything like that. I'm not going to, because you won't be able to see that. But you will see where I did not forward anything that Erika has sent me to Dr. Carter. All right. Let's do this. Okay, right here, I'm actually here doing this, and this is how I came up with this. Is this? I type in Erika's name, but when I do so, there's a drop-down box. I can't just simply type in Erika. If I type in Erika, every email where I've ever mentioned Erika, and this conversation has been going on for a long time, will come up, including some in Donnie's, and every time she's mentioned. And I'm like, okay, that's not going to work. So what they do is when it drops down, it will give you the email. I'm not going to show it here because if I do it here, it will show her email. I'm not going to do that. But it's going to drop down. It's going to show her email, and I click on that, and it shows nothing but the conversation that we had. Now here we have Dr. Rob Carter email here, or the email exchanges, and you notice Erika's not in here anywhere. Okay. Now I did forward one email from Glenn to Rob Carter, and this is the reason why Erika thought that everything she said was going to be emailed to Rob Carter. As you can see, Erika's name is not in there. If you look down here, you'll see Glenn's name. This is because I had forwarded an email to Rob Carter on Glenn on that. I trusted Rob Carter, and I knew Glenn wouldn't care because he's always constantly wanting me to push to Rob Carter, even though I've told him repeatedly Rob Carter's not going to agree with him. But he still seems to think one day he will. There's a lot of self-delusion going on there. Erika has the same one. And she mentioned this earlier, too, that Dr. Rob Carter agreed with her. No, Dr. Rob Carter doesn't agree with her. I will probably raise this up later on down the road. But Dr. Rob Carter took kind of a middle ground position where he didn't agree with Tompkins, nor did he agree with Erika. And he had his own position involved. And Erika took that and like, oh, so he doesn't agree with Tompkins. Oh, wait a minute, I don't agree with Tompkins. And took that and ran with it. And without realizing that he doesn't agree with her either. It's not an either-or situation like, hey, if you don't agree with Tompkins, we're on the same side. No, he's not on your side. He disagrees with you very much. In fact, he probably disagrees with you more than he does Dr. Tompkins. In fact, his numbers right now, in the videos that I watched with her, she mentioned 94%. That's where you mentioned in the video. He actually is leaning toward a late 80 percentile number now. I think it's because Richard Buggs and him have had a conversation on it, and right now I think he's leaning toward high 80s. I could be wrong. Just to add a real quick correction, I've talked to Dr. Carter since I filmed this, and I think I mentioned this, maybe I added it, I think I did insert that during the time I was editing, but anyway, I'm just basically correcting this. He said he's not committing to a particular percent number. His whole goal was to try to start with a high 96% number that Buggs had put in that paper, even though, granted, that Buggs himself didn't held to that to the 96% number because it wasn't intended to do a genetic comparison, and so that's the reason why he kind of went that as a standard and then went lower than that. He's not committing to any percent. He thinks it might be above 90%. He doubts it would be less than 90%. Me and Carter don't agree on that. I didn't voice this to him. I do agree with Buggs that it was likely to be less than 90% when everything's said and done, but we'll see. But like Carter, I do not agree, or I don't hold to a particular percent because without doing a current study, using all the current resources that we have available yet, we just don't know. But that might be more closer than we think. So hopefully something will be done when some new information is utilized. But anyway, I thought I'd just throw that in there, that I did check with Carter since making this video, and he doesn't hold to the 88% number necessarily. That's what Buggs holds to, or he thinks it's going to be below. We're not high at 80% number, but I mean, when he did his study, it was 84.38%. He held to that, and he still holds to it being in the 80s. But currently, he thinks it's going to be higher than that. But Buggs thinks it's going to be less than 90%. Carter's not committing to a particular number. He's just saying, well, maybe it's that, but it could be above 90%, which he's questioning whether he thinks it's going to be less than 90%. I would question whether it to be above 90% once you factor in the unalignable regions of the genome. But anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in there as a correction. But from what I gather, I have to ask him that directly if I'm understanding that correctly, just to be sure. But from what I understand from certain conversations we had, it looks like he's leaning to a high 80 percentile range, rather than the 94 percentile range they originally said in his video. But any given case, putting that aside for a second, if you notice, Rob Carter's email doesn't have nothing about Erika. Notice Glenn. This is what I was talking about. It will have, in this part of the left column here, it should have Erika in there if I emailed anything to Rob Carter or email. Because Erika's part of the conversation if I forward it, right? And it's not mentioning it. Now let's check out Erika's real quick. Here's my conversation with Erika. You see, like, me and Erika went back to back forth. Me, Erika, me, Erika. This is the automatic message that comes from Erika. Her email automatically sends a message, and when it's just single like that, it does Erika. So it's me, Erika, me, Erika, me, Erika, me, Erika, me, Erika, me, Erika, Erika, me, Erika, Erika, me, Erika, me. You don't see Carter anywhere in this. Of course, there's always people with conspiracy theories and say, oh, well, maybe, just maybe, you deleted that particular email. We'll start with, to really cover my tracks, I'd have to delete the email from Carter and delete the email from Erika. That's even less likely, because you would have to sit there and do both. But here's the thing, I never delete my emails. If my inbox ever actually got full, I would, but in years I've had it, it's never gotten full. So let me show you. I think it automatically deletes it after it gets so full, but I've never deleted it. And all these, everything that I got from Erika and everything I got from Carter is more in recent times, so it wouldn't have been deleted automatically even then. So let me show you that. Okay, here's my email account. As you can see, I don't delete anything. You can go all the way down, and it's going to load a whole bunch more. I don't ever delete anything. Probably because one day I might need the email. Again, I think they might delete the email if it gets so full. But all of my emails from Erika and Carter has been recent, so none of that would have been automatically deleted. But I don't delete anything. Everything on my email is there. So I didn't. So, of course, there's always conspiracy theories that go in people's heads. But the point is, I'm not lying about it. Okay, I'm not lying to Erika. When I tell Erika, I have not sent anything of hers to Carter. So she admits it's speculation. At least she's honest about that. But her speculation is unwarranted, and she's been told this before. So I'm not exactly sure at what point does it constitute lying. I don't know. Maybe she thinks I'm lying. But I obviously wasn't lying. I have not sent anything of hers to Dr. Carter. Dr. Carter doesn't ask me about her methods or anything like that. So her speculation is completely unwarranted. And she's been told this by me before. But apparently she thought I was lying. But I wasn't lying. All right. Let's talk a little bit more about the Dr. Corp situation. Again, I'm not going to introduce myself as a young Earth creation. It wasn't about creation versus evolution. When we first start having our discussion, it was purely about the whole use of certain blast parameters. I was trying to find out, could somebody get less than 100%, without assuming there's a problem with the algorithm, less than 100% on a self-to-self? I wondered, how is that even possible? And of course, Dr. Korf directed me in the right direction on how that would be possible. So I was trying to give Erika the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it's not her program. What else would it be? And so that's what I was seeking out. And he actually pointed me in the right direction on that. But I didn't mention anything about the controversy because, one, it wasn't really relevant to what I was trying to discuss about. And two, because I wasn't trying to involve him in the controversy. He drags himself into the controversy later, but he wasn't intended to be part of the controversy. All I wanted to do is reach out and ask specific questions about Blast. That's it. And third, I was afraid that his bias as an evolutionist would come out, and he would try to make this about evolution versus creation, and he would take Erika's side. And sure enough, all that actually took place. So my worst fears came true. That once he got a whiff of the situation, he tend to say, oh, well, the creationist is wrong because he's an evolutionist and he's biased and well biased in favor of our position, of course, but his bias was getting the better of him, and the more he went into it, the less objective he was going to be. And I wanted him to be objective. But like I said, told him in the email with him afterwards, I told him that my intent was not to get, I wasn't coming for the, or reaching out to the Ian Korf, the evolutionist. That's not my point. That was not my purpose. Rather, instead, I wanted to reach out to Ian Korf, the blast expert. That's what I was reaching out to him for. There was no reason to discuss age of the earth, which is completely irrelevant to this discussion, or creation versus evolution. I know a lot of these people in the debate, sometimes creationists do it, sometimes evolutionists do it. They try to make it, and Erika does it a lot, try to make it look like it's a creation versus evolution discussion. It's not. Okay, because in the YC paradigm, it really doesn't matter where the percent similarity falls, regardless. It can fall at any percent similarity whatsoever. It's really a matter of truth. It's a matter of where it falls, and there's a lot of cherry picking that goes on there as well because they end up not factoring into the unalignable regions of the genome, and so it's actually significantly less than even, and their numbers are even professed. So, but we can get into that another day. But in any case, I wanted to point that out. But what about what she said on Dr. Korf on E-values? I want to deal with that real quick. Let's play that clip.
Dr. Ian Korf, you might remember him from earlier,
This great little book with the coelacanth on the cover that all the scientists in genetics had.
confirmed this for me and added that Tompkins' entire study design is flawed fundamentally. He pointed out that chimps and humans have orthologous introns that are about 95% similar due to drift. So how is it even possible to get 70% identity when 95% is neutral? Would Tompkins argue selection for these areas? Korf notes that they are surely non-synthetic repeats, and that this issue doomed the study before any analyses could be carried out. He also pointed out that an E-value of 10 given the rest of his methods was just absurd.
Strangely enough, I actually dealt with the whole E-value thing in my last video on the Tompkins controversy on controlling the narrative. And Ian Korf actually doesn't really take the position anymore that this is going to have that much of an effect. He thinks it's going to have some, but not a major effect or relevance. Mostly he thinks it's due to not masking the repeats. Now, the funny thing is, she makes a general statement about Korf's position, and Korf doesn't come in there, as we've seen. And in a little bit, she's going to voice a comment that Korf makes in the below there, which I had actually dealt with, not as thoroughly as I'm going to do it here, but I did dealt with it in my controlling the narrative. I did talk about what Korf said in the video link, or it was either there or it's up to self-analysis. I think it might have been my self-to-self. It was in one of those two that I did deal with his statement on that. But here I'm going to be dealing with it much more in depth, and I'm going to actually quote from his email to show you what he is actually talking about. And so we're going to actually go into extensive there. But the interesting thing here is I want you to draw away from that statement that was made by Korf, that Korf had an issue with thinking it was due to not masking the repeats, which is true. He did say that, and that was what I was replying to as a general statement. Now, he later will contract that to only be referring to specific papers, and even in those specific papers, that turned out to be not the case. If you notice that, that's what I was replying to, the general statement that he made. He did make that statement. He thought that, and I corrected that wasn't the case because Tompkins took the best alignment. This also means the E-value wouldn't have impacted it that much anyhow, but Dr. Korf no longer takes the position that he thinks that it would have impacted significantly in the study anyhow. So, and I agree with Dr. Korf that the dispersed alignments would be due to mask repeats, but it's not what's filtering his data, because his data is based on the best alignment, so it wouldn't matter anyhow. He's taking the highest scoring hit, which would not be affected by E-value, because you know what the E-value is of the best alignment? 0.0. There is no randomness in the best alignment. So it wouldn't have impacted that anyhow. It would have impacted the search results overall, but it wouldn't impact the and that depends on how big the e-value is. E-value of 1,000 is just terrible. Don't ever use the e-value of 1,000. Now Tompkins did use 5 different e-values just to test what the results would be. That was the whole goal of the study, to test the results of different parameters in BLAST. And in 2011, he tested 5 different e-values. I don't think Erika replicated his 2011 correctly, because she would have had to replicate all 5 e-values, 3 word sizes, and both masking and unmasking that was used in his 2011. So he didn't just use masking in 2011. He also used unmasking. He used both experiments on his 2011 paper, and I don't think Erika replicated that correctly at all. If she did, she would have done all those things, and she didn't do it. Because he used multiple parameters to test different results, and he also found there wasn't that much of a difference between e-value 10 and e-value 1,000, ironically. But usually the e-value uses is 0.1. Now, Dr. Korf does hold the position that he thinks that Dr. Tompkins' fundamental design of the problem is flawed. But the reason he thinks that is because the first mistake, the main mistake he thinks Tompkins used, is using BLAST in the first place for this, because BLAST is not intended to use this, and this is not what it should be used for, and that was his opinion on that. That's one of the main reasons why he thought that. But in retrospect, so is Erika's. Erika's would be fundamentally flawed because of that reason too. Now, of course, just to kind of defend everybody involved, Erika's using BLAST because Tompkins is using it. Tompkins is using it because the evolutionists that he's evaluating their arguments on are using it. So it has that reason behind it. It's not being used because because Tompkins recognized the fact that there's limitations to BLAST, and you can't be able to determine the differences between humans and chimps. So with it, because it only determines similarities and alignments. And so when you hear things like 96% or 98%, in reality it's far more than that. And Dr. Korf actually knows this, because me and him have actually talked about this. He knows this about BLAST. He's not ignorant of it. He knows this is true about BLAST, and he admits it's true about BLAST. But because of his evolutionary assumptions, he takes it anyhow. He takes that position anyhow of 98%. Like it's 98% similar here, and so how could and Erika mentioned the 70%. Nobody takes the 70% number anymore, Erika. Not even Tompkins. The 70%, now, Dr. Korf, and you're going to find out this in a minute, Dr. Korf thought that the 2011 paper, or not 2011, but 2013 paper was flawed because it uses 70%. And he thinks he came up with 70% because he didn't mask the repeats, and he was doing some sort of global percent on it. But that's not the case. The reason he came up with 70% was because it was a bug in the algorithm. Everybody knows this, including Erika. So his 70% was not due to unmasked repeats. But that's what he assumed. And we're going to go into that because I have an email from him. I'm not going to show the email. I don't have permission to show the email, so I'm not going to show the email. Instead, I've got it quoted in a PowerPoint slide, and I'm going to show that instead, and the quote from him, so everybody can kind of see that what Dr. Korf actually meant by his comment in the comment section. But I'll get to that when Erika gets to that point. But in any given case, but that's but the reason why he says that he thinks the design of this flaw, because he doesn't think BLAST should be used for this reason, and he's told me this, and this is the reason why he thinks this is the fundamental design flaw. That's why he thinks that, is because he doesn't think BLAST should be used for this reason. So in a technical sense, you're doing that as well, Erika. So he thinks your design of the problem is also fundamentally flawed, just so you know. But that's the reason why he thought that. But in any given case, but the reason why, and I've told him this in the discussion, not to defend Erika, or I think it might have been in one of the clips that I've shown in my previous videos, but not to defend Erika or Tompkins. But the issue is simply this, that Erika is doing it because she's trying to replicate Tompkins' method. She failed in that attempt, but you got to give her props that she's using blast for that reason. And Tompkins is using blast because the previous evolutionist that he's responding to use blast. I mean, so, and plus he wants to know what issues are involved. If I use blast here, what are the limitations of that? And so he's trying to do this through experimental discussions concerning blast. And so when you're doing genetic studies, and some of the studies that you're doing involve how blast is, and because a lot of geneticists are using blast, then of course you have to use blast to do that, right? If I do a Bible study, does it make sense that I don't use the Bible? It wouldn't make no sense, would it? So if you're using a study that involves blast, then it would make a lot of sense to use blast. But so I don't agree that his fundamental design problem is flawed because of the nature of the kinds of studies that he's doing, like testing various parameters, testing limitations of blast, and things like that. But in any given case, but that's what Dr. Korf actually meant, is his use of the tool blast for this reason, because Korf doesn't think that blast should have been used for this purpose, and that's what he meant by that. So apparently she didn't really spell out what he meant, but I know what he meant because I did talk to him about this, and he did say the same thing to me, and he explained what he meant by it. So that's why I know what he meant by it. I don't know if Erika knew that and just didn't report it, or she wasn't aware of that at all, or what the case might be. But either way, she didn't give any details of it. But I'm giving details of it because I know what he meant by that. But I don't agree with him because of the nature of the studies, the kinds of studies he's doing would require he to use blast. I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to talk about the limitations of blast and never use blast. Just like Carter don't agree with using blast for this reason either. He thinks there's all kinds of problems associated with using blast for these purposes and that sort of thing. And he runs into all kinds of issues when he does do that. But because everyone else is using blast, he's using blast, and it only makes sense that if you want to know about the limitations of blast or what to expect from the program tool called blast in reference to this, then it just makes sense that you go to use blast. Just like it'd be kind of like me doing a Bible study, but not thinking I need the Bible for it. If you're going to do a Bible study, you would need the Bible, right? So if you're going to do a study involving blast, then you're going to need blast. It just makes sense to do that way. So I don't agree that the fundamental design problem is flawed. But in any given case, let's let her continue, because she's going to go into a comment that was made by Dr. Korf, and I want to explore this even more.
Looks like his landing page here, because of the past 2 months, every single one of his videos has been about me or tangentially about me. Look, I made all the thumbnails. Sometimes he uses a different picture of me too. Anyways.
Okay. So we're getting to our real issue. The real issue is me responding to her so much. I wonder if she understands the nature of a video response series. I mentioned earlier that there was 3 goals I had in my video response series. 2 of them involve Erika, including her response to my Tompkins interview. So why wouldn't they, if this is a video response series mostly about Erika, then why would I not respond to Erika? Erika's a big voice in this discussion, so of course they're going to be about her. And she talked about her image being in all the thumbnails, but then again, so is Donnie Beninsky, so is Ruhip, and I haven't even got to Ruhip's arguments on Gap versus Ungap yet, but that's going to happen. And Ruhip's in there, you see his picture in there too. So yeah, so all of them are in all the thumbnails. That's only because anyone who's ever spoken into this discussion is in there, but I probably will take Dr. Ian Korf out of there. I just put him in there because I did have some interviews with him in it, but his picture will likely be taken out on the next one, because the next one won't involve Dr. Ian Korf's comments or anything, so I'll probably likely take him out completely, because he's not really an active voice. In fact, a lot of these people in these pictures are not active voices that much in it, but that I might have had interviews with them and stuff like that. That's why they're in the thumbnail. But her image is in there because she's a very big voice in this discussion. So of course she's in the thumbnails. But so is Donnie Badensky. So is Dr. Rob Carter. And Dr. Ian Corp is in a couple of them. Of course. But anyway, let's continue.
The reason I bring this up is because I find the title of this one incredibly hysterical. This is the punchline. This is what I wanted to show you. A video titled "Controlling the Narrative: The Tompkins Controversy, Part 5." And I guess these are the other parts. Now, I also want to reveal to you another...
Why is that so... Why is so funny? I think she's about to reveal why she thinks that is the ultimate funny thing, because this is one of the main reasons she's bringing it up.
Very funny sort of gag about this whole thing, which is that apparently Tompkins was supposed to come on for an interview, was supposed to come on Brian's channel for an interview, and then after my video and then subsequently Rob Carter's video where he agrees that Tompkins' methods are bogus, after those guys came out, Tompkins rescinded the interview acceptance and said he was going to be thinking about what he's seen, I guess. From Rob Carter, not from me, of course.
Okay,
I couldn't have said anything to change his mind.
Okay, she's ready to go into the comment that I'm fixing to talk about. All right, but in any given case, that's partially true. It wasn't after she made her video, nothing. In fact, it was actually months after she made her video that the interview was canceled. The interview was canceled after Rob Carter made his video, and the reason is because the actual reason is because Dr. Tompkins was afraid that people would get confused if he suddenly come up with an interview, and plus he had to have time to read or listen to what Dr. Carter had said, not because he was considering it, because he wanted to see what points that he made in terms of his arguments, and perhaps even read his paper and that sort of thing. The funny thing is, since she did mention the interview, the interesting thing is that I've actually been in discussion with Dr. Tompkins. I'm not going to get everybody's hopes up high. I'm trying not to get my hopes up high. But I am working on trying to see if I can get Tompkins in for another interview. It's a long shot. Nothing's set in stone. Even if he agrees to it, it probably, as we've seen, it's not set in stone. There's always a possibility he could cancel it. But I'm going to try to kind of keep my mouth shut about the rest of it. I don't want to jinx myself. Everybody's really wanting this to happen, given the nature of everything that's going on, including with Erika. Everybody really wants an interview with Tompkins, and I really want an interview with Tompkins about it. I don't want to just keep going back and forth through the email exchanges. So I'm hoping he will, but there's no guarantee of it. But I am working on it currently, trying to do that. We'll see if it happens. It may not happen. Nobody get their hopes up. I'm gonna try my best not to get my hopes up, because I was really disappointed when he had went back on the interview and decided not to do the interview. That really disappointed me. So this time I want to make sure that it happened. Once it happens, and it's solid ground that it's going to happen. Once I got it recorded, then I know I can do it. I know I can do it at that point. And I'm all for it. I'm ready to go. But in any given case, but as far as the interview go, it had nothing to do with anything that Carter said specifically. I mean, he didn't really. I think he only watched maybe 25 minutes of it whenever he had canceled the interview. But he had canceled the interview mainly because he was afraid people would get confused. And on top of that, he wasn't exactly sure what to make of what Carter had said. Not that Carter, whether he agrees with Carter or not. Him and Carter disagrees on a number of things. But believe it or not, Carter is not as far away from Tompkins as you would think. He's a little bit closer to Tompkins than he is to what Erika believes. And that's why it's so weird that Erika thinks that Carter's on his side. He's actually much further away from Erika than he is Tompkins. In fact, like I said, I think he might be leaning to high 80 percentile range now, which is not very far away from where Tompkins is. Tompkins, that may be only a few percent difference. And me and Dr. Carter has some differences as well. But he is, I respect him a lot. He has helped me out a lot with these videos and answering questions and hashing out certain issues and things like that. And I enjoy that. She talked about me working with Dr. Carter. I never really thought about me working with Dr. Carter. It was more like we were in a conversation going back and forth. But we did have some interesting conversation with self to self, and he helped. He did work with me in terms of that, hashing out some of the details of that argument and that and getting my final thoughts on the matter. And Dr. Korf helped out considerably as well, because he pointed me in the right direction with the whole masking of the repeats and having spurious alignment, saying you do a global percent alignment of that, then you get less than 100%. But that's not what Tompkins did. And Tompkins took the best alignment. He took the highest percent, highest scoring alignment. And when you take the highest scoring alignment against itself, it's always 100%. So, unless there's an issue wrong with the algorithm. That's the reason why you can test that with the algorithm. Because it will always be 100% if you do best alignment against itself. And if it's not 100%, if you do best alignment against itself, then there's some issue with the algorithm that's a problem. And that's why they use that to test the algorithm in the first place. But all right. But she's fixing to go, and she's fixing to discuss the whole comment that Korf makes, and I want to deal with this as well. Let's go ahead and let her finish on the comment here.
There's some really funny stuff in here that I conversation about Jeffrey Tompkins and layman creationists who like to use him. Brian, of course, is our stand-in for these layman creationists. That's why I like to point him out.
I'm not a layman. I'm a scholar. I'm part of the academic community. I've told her this before. I am part of the academic community. Look at my my degree up there. I do have a degree. I am part of the academic community. I'm continuing through college in the discussion and that sort of thing. And so the only thing lay about me is I like to sleep in on weekends. That's the only thing lay about me. I'm not a layman. She said that I'm a gateway to the layman. No, not exactly. I'm a gateway to all young earth creationists because my position is mainstream. My position is mainstream in young earth creationist views. The kind of views I hold are going to be very similar to Answers in Genesis, ICR, CMI, Dr. Jason Lau, Biblical Science Institute, things like that. My position is going to be very close to that level. And because so it's not going to be, it's not at the lay level. I'm not a layman. I'm actually a scholar. I'm part of the academic community. I'm not a scientist, but I am a scholar. I'm part of the academic community. So that qualifies me. I'm not a layman. The only thing lay about me is I like to sleep in on weekends. That's it. But I'm not a layman. Like I said, she likes to throw these cheap shots at me. I think she knows it gets under my skin, and so that's why she does it. But I'm not a layman.
It's not that Brian himself is doing or saying anything novel or unique, but he acts as a nice little gateway into the minds of some of these creationists who like what Tompkins says, but they don't really know what he's saying or why he's saying it, or
Okay.
like the foundational grounds by which he makes his arguments. The arguments are, of course, all wrong, but like a lot of these creationists who don't have a scientific background don't know even the reasons at the basic level why Tompkins is flawed in his methodology. But I like this.
Okay, that's incorrect. Actually, to start with, I'm not. I've told her this more than once. I'm not out to defend Tompkins' study. That's not my goal. Not really. My goal is truth. Whatever's truth. If something's true, it's true. If Tompkins made a mistake, he made a mistake. It's just the way it goes. Everybody makes mistakes. She's made lots of mistakes since the beginning of this. So I don't know why she thinks she's so innocent in all this. But in any given case, I'm not arguing. I'm not defending Tompkins. I'm not defending her. I'm not defending anyone. I'm just simply trying to get at the bottom line of the truth of the matter. I guess because I don't have a scientific background. Do I have a scientific background? No, I don't have a scientific background. But the people that I talk to and interview and have discussions with and email, and they have scientific backgrounds, including Dr. Rob Carter, by the way. And so it's not required that. But she said, she made another cheap shot there. She said, I don't know that I don't know why he's saying it. Yes, I do. I know what he's saying, and I know why he's saying it. Yes, I do. Just because I don't have a scientific background doesn't mean I'm not smart, and it doesn't mean I don't have knowledge of this area and discussion. In fact, I know far more about this area than I did originally. But in any given case, you're not a geneticist, so you don't have no background in genetics. So does that mean you don't have no idea what Tompkins is talking about or why? So yeah, this is again nonsensical. I do know what he's saying and why. In fact, I actually every time I check with Dr. Tompkins to make sure that I'm on the same page, that I'm representing his position correctly. I'll be like I did with that email when I sent him the email about the best alignment, and he said that's correct. He took the best alignment. He took the highest hitting alignment, and the highest scoring hit. And he Erika here has every time that Erika has tried to make an interpretation of Tompkins' study, she's got something wrong. She got something wrong. Either Dr. Carter exposed it, or Dr. Tompkins exposed it, or I exposed it, and or I check with Dr. Tompkins, find out that she's wrong and I'm right. So yeah, let's continue.
Because Brian, remember, messaged Ian Korf, the author of the Blast textbook, and then I guess had him on for an interview. Dr. Korf told me about this. It was very funny. And then Dr. Korf comments on Brian's channel here on one of his videos, and he says, after all this time I spent trying to educate you on how Blast works, you still end up misrepresenting me. Thanks. So,
interesting enough, I actually dealt with that comment in controlling the narrative. So if she had seen that, she would have seen that I've dealt with it. I'm going to deal with it much more in depth here, but let's let her finish here.
I think that's funny. There's a little bit.
All right, before she goes into something else. All right, so I'm going to deal with Dr. Korf's comment more specifically, because it actually wasn't a misrepresentation at all, and it actually didn't concern Blast at all. We'll see here in a second. Actually, she ended up doing the same thing I did, responding to a general comment that Dr. Korf had made. But in any given case, I'm going to show you that, and I've got it pulled up on a PowerPoint, and I quoted from there. So let's continue there. Okay. I've got the PowerPoint pulled up here of what I got here. All right. Says, okay, this is the actual quote from the email. This is what Ian Korf said. Because I asked him about that. What in the world did I misrepresent him on? And through email, this is what he said. You said I didn't understand that he was using the best match, talking about Tompkins. However, he did not do that in 2013 or 2011, which is what I was referencing with multiple HSPs, that stands for highest scoring pairs. In 2015, he made different mistakes. Okay, this is interesting because he used the same method for 2013 he does 2015. And actually, me and Dr. Korf never brought up a specific paper at all. This is why I put in my second point. No references were made by Dr. Ian Korf in any of our conversations, including me. Me and him either didn't talk about any specific papers. Two specific papers of Tompkins. We did not address that at all. So this right here was all new stuff that he was adding. Notice though, well, I'll get in that in a second, but 2013 paper, the reason he thought that, I think that he thought that he was well on high scoring pairs because it was a 70% number. But everybody knows, including Erika, that the reason Tompkins got the 70% number was due to the bug in the algorithm. Everyone knows this at the time. It was pointed out by Glenn Williamson. This was checked out and discovered that there was a bug in the algorithm, and this was taken care of and fixed as a result. And in fact, 2015, he used tons and tons of controls because he was redoing the method of 2013. So interesting enough, Dr. Korf does admit that he uses the best alignment for 2015 paper. Doesn't claim that for 2013, even though they're using the same method. But in 2013, I think the reason he thought he was using relying on multiple HSPs is because of the 70% number. But he got the 70% number as a result of the bug in the algorithm, not because of his method. 2011, he used a wide variety of methods. So this one's kind of a little interesting because he used a wide variety of methods. Well, not really methods exactly. His method contained a wide variety of parameters that he used. He used 5 different e-values, 3 different word sizes, and get this, he did 2 experiments in that, one masking and one unmasking. And so the interesting thing is that even if you could claim that he was taking the overall percentage of, say, one of the experiments, say where he masked the repeats, in one of the other experiment, he didn't mask the repeats, and therefore it wouldn't have mattered if he did a global percent alignment or not, because he wouldn't have had those spurious alignments in his search results. But either way, he used the best alignment. These actually are inaccurate. But notice that this is not a misrepresentation. This is him replying to it. I wrote down here on the third point, I said, 2 things to note it from the quote. 1, the claim of his issue is a response to Dr. Tompkins' use of best alignment, but this does not appear to be a misrepresentation, especially since I was replying to a general comment to Tompkins' study that he made, whereby he'd made no reference to any of Tompkins' papers, regardless if he's had these on his mind or not. And 2, none of his comments were about BLAST, despite his insinuation in the comment section of my video. So the interesting thing is that none of his none of this comment was about BLAST at all. He insinuated that I misrepresented what he said about BLAST, but in reality I didn't. And on top of that, he never mentioned any specific papers. Now, interesting enough, Erika also, in that video I showed you earlier, Erika also makes a general comment where he's replying to a general comment that Corp said. Now, Corp, ironically, doesn't come in the comment sections to tell her that he misrepresented her, even though she did the exact same thing I did. Why? Because there was no specific addressing of a specific paper in his comments. Now, he could have had these on the back of his mind. That's always possible. But he never brought it up. So I was responding to a specific comment that he made. So there was no actual misrepresentation. There was nothing at all about BLAST. So any information I said about BLAST, he did not say. In fact, him responding this way seems to affirm my position that if you take the best match, that you're not going and not doing a global alignment where you're doing it with multiple HHPs, high scoring pairs, then you do actually get 100% on a self-to-self test of the best match. So he is acknowledging that Tompkins is using the best match, even if he is denying it for these particular papers. And interesting enough, Tompkins uses the same method for his 2015 paper. He just simply did a whole bunch of controls to show that the algorithm isn't having issues and so forth, because he had a bug in the original algorithm in 2013. So that's interesting to note as well about that. And of course, Erika does the same thing I did. So if I was misrepresenting it, so was Erika, because she was also responding to a general comment that he made about that. And I mentioned that in my last point here. Erika does the same thing in a previous clip from her video responding to Rob Carter without Dr. Korf coming into the comment section saying the same thing. So interesting enough, he doesn't come in there saying the same thing, even though she does the exact same thing I did. But it wasn't a misrepresentation. He didn't make a general statement like that. There was no mention of any specific papers at all. And that was what I was addressing. And there's nothing at all about BLAST at all. So, and I mentioned all this in my video too. Interesting enough, I did mention all this in my video, and controlling the narrative. And if Erika had seen my video, she would have known that I actually addressed this either in the controlling the narrative or self-to-self. I think I might have mentioned it in the controlling the narrative. I could have mentioned it in the self-to-self analysis. But either way, if she has seen those videos, she would have seen it. I don't think she's watching these videos at all. And it's kind of hard for her to respond to those videos that she hasn't actually even seen. And she always accuses us of not seeing it, and I don't think she's actually watched these videos. Rip says she saw a few minutes of my controlling the narrative video, but I don't think he fully understood everything that I said in it. But they're going to make another huge mistake with that here in a second, or at least Erika will. Let's continue.
In here, that is conversation between Dr. Korf and Brian. He has another video that is like their full interview together, and he talks a little bit about why he thinks I'm sick.
None of the videos that I showed show the full videos. They show clips from it, or except for, yeah, I think the one that showed the full interview for the e-value, maybe. I might have showed that fully, and I could have showed the other one fully, but now I showed the full interview discussion, and they're edited out, because like I said, we come close to debating it at one point, and so there was a bunch of nonsensical stuff thrown out there. I might deal with some of those statements later. I decided to keep one when I was trying to fix the memory on my computer. I actually decided to keep that last interview on my computer because I may still respond to some of the things that we talked about in that.
Saying that Jeffrey Tompkins' methods can't provide a 100% identity of an entity to itself. If you've seen my other two videos, here and here, you already know why that is.
Just a quick note added in post. This is weird for her to sit there and say that Tompkins' numbers can't, or Tompkins' method can't do a self-to-self analysis, especially given what she has admitted to in her video, the very video that she's pointing to, or one of them. And given what I have actually found out recently, Tompkins' method can do a self-to-self analysis and can provide identity to itself. As I mentioned a couple of videos ago, a new development has come up in this controversy since I started editing this video. In fact, I'm almost done with it when I discovered some new developments, and I'm going to be doing that on my next video. I'm going to have that out as soon as I can because of the realization of the whole thing, the discovery that was made, my whole thesis about what she did versus what Tompkins did was confirmed by Carter, and so this is way too juicy, way too incredible to not release. So on my next video, I plan on releasing it, so it is going to be awesome. I can't wait. It's going to be part of the Tompkins controversy. I'm going to call it confirming the narrative, because it's a follow-up of controlling the narrative. And it's actually going to basically be confirming my thesis I originally made when I did when I analyzed Erika's self-to-self analysis. And my thesis was indeed confirmed. And so I can't wait to show that. But if you replicate Tompkins' method correctly, you would get 100%. But I wanted to sit there and add this in post because she said that, and whet your appetite for more, because I'm about to release a video that's going to just crack. It confirms everything that I thought, and I can't wait to release it. And it's going to come out in my very next video, planned for next week. Thank you. Actually, it can. If you take the best alignment, it can. I've not seen, now just a full disclaimer, I've not seen Erika's response yet. I'm just kind of jumping around different videos and watching different parts of other videos, and then just kind of going back and forth on that. And I've seen several different things Erika has brought up, but I have not seen the part where she talks about the self-to-self analysis yet. I will probably get to that eventually, maybe even this week, just to kind of see how she responds to that, because I don't know yet. But eventually I will get there. But I've already done a video on the self-to-self analysis. I think she's taking the global percent analysis of all, because she has some misrepresentations of Tompkins' work. Tompkins is using the best match. He's using the highest scoring hit. And when you do the highest scoring hit against itself, you always get 100%. So she's wrong about this. She may have the same view that Dr. Korf had, that, doing a global percent alignment of all the search results. Then if you do that and you mask the repeats, or don't mask the repeats, I should say. And then, yeah, you will have spurious alignments, and that would force your percent similarity to go down. But then you risk the problem of her not replicating Tompkins' method correctly. Because if you replicate Tompkins' method correctly, you get 100% because he used the best alignment in every single case. He's using the highest scoring hit. And that's what Erika is not getting. She thinks that he's using a global. I think she thinks he's using a global percent alignment. Like I said, I have not seen her response yet to the whole self-to-self thing, but given the fact that she still thinks that you would get less than 100% using Tompkins' method, indicates she's doing it incorrectly. Because if you use Tompkins' method, you would get 100% every single time, unless there's a problem with your algorithm or your particular software, and if that happens, it's on your side, not Tompkins's. But if you use Tompkins' method correctly and everything's working correctly with your algorithm and everything, your software program, then you should get 100% every single time with Tompkins' method. If you don't, there's an issue somewhere. You're doing Tompkins' method incorrectly, or you're doing, or there's some problem with your algorithm, or whatever the case may be. There would have to be some sort of issue other than that, because it wouldn't be Tompkins' method, because if you do Tompkins' method correctly, since he used the best alignment, since he's using the best highest scoring hit, then you would get 100% every time, because that would get 100% every single time you do that self-to-self, every time. If your algorithm is working properly, if your software is working good, your program is working good, you get 100% every single time using Tompkins' method. There should be no reason at all to get less than 100% unless you're doing something incorrectly. And so that's the issue. But she would have gotten 100%. So if you do Tompkins' method correctly, you get 100%. I think she has an incorrect view of what she thinks Tompkins did. Ruheb has a view on his 2016 paper, which I think Erika takes, where he thinks that he divided by the accordingly. That was incorrect as well. But I'll cover that maybe later on down the road.
But then we get to the real meat of the video. This entire thing is actually about controls. So what Brian is basically arguing is that it's like a misrepresentation to say that Tompkins neglected to use controls in his various works. And that's why we have our friend Glenn here today. But
all right. My argument in controlling the narrative, and I said this, okay, when I dealt with the controls, I actually dealt with a number of things, including parameters. It wasn't just about controls. But the main thing was on the controlling issue. But my argument was that the statement that Tompkins didn't use any controls is false. I said early on, I was not defending that Tompkins used controls in every case, in every study. That was not my purpose. I was not trying to defend that. I agree that there's a possibility he did not use controls in every single case. But he did use controls. So the statement that he didn't use controls at all is false. I think the reason why Erika and people who's following her on this think that Tompkins didn't use controls, because if he used controls, then it would justify his method, or it would show his algorithm is working good, or that he's actually working properly. I think that they don't like the idea that he could test these results. And you know, by the way, scientists don't always use controls. They do. But they don't always use it. Sometimes they do it, sometimes they don't. And I brought this up to Dr. Korf, and he says, well, yeah, but they could be doing it in the background. But then that's special pleading in it, because Tompkins could also be doing controls in the background. so that's a bit on special pleading. I doubt Erika would argue something like that, because he would have to agree that Tompkins could have possibly do it in the background as a result. But all we have is what he puts in writing, and so I defended only the studies in which he specifically used controls. He used loads of controls in the 2015 paper. So, of course, I was going to defend that. He also used controls in his 2018 paper. Me and Tompkins also talked about that, and he agreed he used controls. Tompkins thought he used controls in the 2016 paper, but if he did, it was probably in the background. But there was no way for me to know that. And so all I have is what he wrote in the paper, and I mentioned that he did, that there's no reference at all in his 2016 paper if he used controls or not. So I did not defend the idea he used controls in the 2016 paper, which is what they're talking about. They're saying, oh, well, he didn't use controls in his 2016 paper. Haha, you must be wrong. Haha, you must not have seen my video. Because if you saw my video, you would know what I actually said. Let me play that clip for you real quick from my the Tompkins controversy on the controlling the narrative. Okay, this is his 2016 paper with the 101 data sets. We talked about that. Well, we haven't really talked about it per se, but this is the paper that Dr. Johnson was responding to. And in this one, he doesn't practice any controls that I've seen openly as far as that goes in the paper itself. So it's kind of a short paper. It's not a very long one, but I don't think he practiced any controls in there. So, did I say that he practiced any controls in his 2016 paper? No. I never said that. This indicates that, to me at least, that Erika didn't actually watch my video. She's responding to a video she's not actually seen. Essentially, it's putting it in a nutshell, which is kind of funny and weird because she always constantly hounds on people, and usually when she does it though, it's like, okay, we don't agree with the video. So if I say that, for example, Erika didn't replicate Tompkins' method correctly, she'll say, haha, you must not have seen my video, because if you see my video, you agree that I replicated Tompkins' method exactly. It's like, no, you didn't. You didn't do this, this, and this, and this. And, you know, there are times when she switched around chip sequences. She didn't include the accessory sequences. She has a particular argument on that, but I will deal with that later on down the road. But she didn't include the accessory sequences. She didn't include best alignment. She also, if she's taken the global percent alignment for the search results on self-to-self, if that's her interpretation of Tompkins' study, then is she doing this when she's doing all of her other experiments? Very possible. So she's not replicating his method correctly. But the fact that I don't agree that he replicated the method correctly doesn't mean I didn't see the video. It just means I disagree with her. So because you can disagree with someone and not disagree with seeing the video. But in this case, however, this is not a case of her just simply not agreeing with me. This is a case of her not knowing what I said in my video. Because if she knew what Sad said in the video, then she would know that. I don't think she's actually seen it. I don't think she's actually watched it. But I actually does reference the fact that so I didn't defend him doing controls in 2016. But interesting enough, she mentioned Ruhip's video. Ruhip's video is, despite its titles, more about gap versus ungap than it is controls. I don't even know if she has anything in control. Now again, full disclaimer, I have not seen the entire video of Ruhip's. I plan on watching it. I will watch it entirely eventually. But I've been just kind of bouncing back and forth. There's a lot of videos that came out recently, and I've been going back and forth over these videos. And so I've been seeing different parts of it and that sort of thing. But eventually I'll get to watching it in full. It's just taking me a while because I've got some time before I start dealing with a lot of these issues, a lot of these arguments that they're being brought up. Some of them are just minor stuff that doesn't really hurt my arguments any. Then other things are things that I need to respond to. Ruhip's arguments I will be responding to later on down the road. But I will be responding to what Ruhip says on that, on his particular arguments. Glenn Williamson's on gap versus ungap. But let's continue what she has to say on it.
By now you should be pretty familiar with Glenn Williamson. He's helped out on a lot of these videos and been like my go-to guy for running things past. He is a brilliant computer programmer. He does a lot of awesome coding stuff. He is the script king, as it were. And he actually created this video kind of while I was doing my more recent videos on the subject, the two ones that you presumably just saw, since these are all coming out in sequence. And when Glenn finished the video, he reached out to me and he was like, I've just done this video covering Jeffrey Tompkins' 2016 work, and it's specifically about controls, and I was wondering if you wanted to release it on your channel. And I was like, I would absolutely love to, honestly. I just want to get as many eyes on the gaffes of Jeffrey.
All right. We're not going to continue it further than that. She mentioned about the Ruhip's video. Based on what I've seen, as well as my back and forth between me and Glenn, It doesn't appear that the video is about controls at all. It's more about gap versus ungap. Ruhip has written this paper a while back. He tried to get it peer reviewed in Answers Research Journal. It was rejected for peer review. As far as I can tell, it's not been accepted for peer review anywhere else either. So he's got it published online, but it's unpublished in terms of peer review. So it's an unpublished unpublished paper that has not been peer reviewed. But he's holding to these arguments that in spite of the fact he's got flaws in it. Dr. Rob Carter mentioned some of these flaws that he has in his paper, and he has some flaws in the paper. The paper though is kind of well written, but it has some errors in terms of his arguments, including his misrepresentation of Tompkins' arguments on that, because he thinks that Tompkins had divided by the quarry length, which was not the case. He based this off of certain numbers that Tompkins had sent him. Tompkins has not confirmed to him that he divided by the quarry length. It's not found anywhere in this 2016 paper that he divided by the quarry length. In fact, in the 2016 paper, he actually says he took the average, which is what Tompkins always does. But there's nothing in the paper that says anything about him dividing by the quarry length. He gets this from calculating certain numbers and putting it together, and says, oh, well, this is the quarry length, this is the alignment, if I take this and this and this and divide by this, and I'll get this number. And so because he gets a number close to that, he just assumed that that's what Tompkins did. There's no actual evidence that Tompkins actually divided by the quarry length at all. And Dr. Tompkins had confirmed to me that, I mean, he don't even know what Glenn is even talking about there. Because it's like, no, I didn't do that. But anyway, but in any given case, if you actually calculate, ironically, in order for Glenn to make that argument, in order to even make he's making a particular inference because of the way the numbers are set up, and he calculates them, and so he assumes, oh, that must be what Dr. Tompkins had done. But in order to do that, in order to even make the inference, now even if the inference turns out to be true, okay, and the numbers were exact, it still wouldn't prove that he divided by the quarry length. Now, without direct confirmation or any reference at all in his paper, you would have to set, because that would be fallacy and logic called affirming the consequence. I'm not going to go too deep in that, but there are types of arguments, I call them conditionals, where you use the if and then. I mean, like, if this happened, then this happened. And the if part, what follows after the if is what's called the antecedent. What follows after the then is called the consequent. And there are two different fallacies that can erupt. And it's a fallacy because it renders the conclusion valid. It doesn't follow logically from the premise. And so one is called denying the antecedent, and the other is called affirming the consequence. Now, the opposite of these, denying the consequent and affirming the affirming the antecedent, are valid arguments. But the other two, denying the antecedent and affirming the consequence, are invalid arguments. It doesn't follow logically from the conclusion. There could be other reasons, explanations for why the numbers are exact. For example, if the indels fall in the right place, or the sequences just happen to be shortened up, and that sort of thing. There could be other reasons behind it. But ironically, to even make the inference, you have to be able to have the numbers to be exact. When you actually calculate the numbers up, Glenn actually sent me the numbers, and I just happened to do the calculation on a calculator, of course, because I'm not good at math. So I did the on the calculator, and it was not exact. Now, originally, he said, in his paper, he said 300. And then if you do that calculation, it comes up to an entire percent off. And he's like, oh, well, this is intermediate rounding, da da da. Well, he sends me an exact number of how big the quarry length was that was being divided by. I think it was like 299, and it's like point, a big long number behind it. So I sat there and did the calculations again using the number he gave me, the more precise number, and it was off by several decimal points. It was off by several decimal points. And in order for him to even make the inference, it would have to be exact, because he's not basing this on any confirmation from Tompkins or anything from his papers, because nothing in his paper said he divided by the quarry length. So, and there's lots of other errors involved, including how blast operates. And she actually strangely, this actually kind of surprised me on Erika. She actually called an error that I didn't expect her to call, and agreed with Tompkins or Carter on it, about what she believes on it. But then she goes with Ruhib's position anyhow, even though Ruhib's position still makes the same mistake in his papers. So I found that kind of ironic. But anyway, okay, that's all for that. Thanks for joining me here. It's been a long one. Erika made some serious attacks against me, some false allegations, some erroneous statements, and she just went after me. I guess because I'm doing so many response videos to her. That's the nature of my line of work, my position as a calling of a Christian apologist. So I have a lot of people going after me, attacking me, and throwing out all kinds of criticisms and false allegations, and even lying on me. I had one person that I was sitting debating recently. He kept saying that that all my assertions were baseless. Baseless claims, and I was like, what baseless claims are you talking about? And I repeated this over and over again. He would not give me any examples of baseless claims. He's like, well, just name one. I was like, well, you're the one who sat there and made the assertion, you name one. He couldn't name one. He had the burden of proof. He kept saying, well, you're shifting the burden of proof to me. No, you actually have the burden of proof because you made the assertion. Your assertion was I had baseless claims. I'm asking you for an example of it. I don't think he saw any of my videos, is what I think it came down to. And I told him this. I don't think he saw any of my videos. I don't think he saw any of my arguments. He just assumed it was baseless claims because I was making it. I'm a creationist. I'm a young earth creationist. He doesn't agree with me. He thinks the evolutionist is right, and therefore I've got to be wrong no matter what. And he didn't bother to actually review anything I said. He certainly didn't want to watch my videos to see if I made any alleged baseless claims. And so we get things like that. And during the course, he even tried to use an ad hominem policy, try to say, "Oh, I want to be an apologist." So, want to be an apologist is silly. It's not true. You can't be a wannabe. How do you be a wannabe apologist? Apologist is someone who defends the faith of Christianity or defends their belief. It's not isolated just to Christians. There are actually apologists in all kinds of worldviews. But a Christian apologist, of course, would defend the faith of Christianity. So how can I be a wannabe apologist? There's no way. So there was ad hominems and things like that they were trying to throw at me and stuff. So I'm used to people attacking me, and ultimately that's what Erika did. She attacked me. She attacked me because I made a series of response videos, and we had some back and forth with email, and so she made some false allegations. I feel like she lied about me. I feel like she lied to me because she promised not promised per se, but we had an agreement to let this drop. It wasn't a cover up. It was just the fact it was over with. And we resolved the issue, and everything was said and done, and there was no point in bringing it back up. For some reason she did, and it was a false allegation. Again, I didn't dox her. Okay, that's not what happened at all. Doxing is a type of trolling. That's the context and the nature of doxing as well. I didn't do that. And it's usually done for malicious reasons, which wasn't the case. Unintentional doxing is an oxymoron. It's like someone talking about unintentional hacking. It doesn't make any sense. It's nonsensical. And that sort of thing. And there were other, again, like I said, there were other allegations that were made and all kinds of stuff that was happening. And I just thought I'd just kind of share that with y'all and in response to it. And as a Christian apologist, I'm going to be attacked. But you can't believe everything these skeptics are saying and accusing me of and arguments. And some of these guys are not even watching the videos or reading the materials or reading what I'm actually saying and ad hominems galore and so forth, and it gets thrown around. That happens because I'm dealing with a lot of controversial subject matters, and people don't like what I have to say. They don't. And so they respond and they attack and they ridicule and they criticize and they throw out pot shots and things like that. All kinds of cheap shots at me and that's what Erika's doing. So don't, just because someone like Erika says, oh, we'll look at what Apologetics 101 says, don't believe it. Just, you have to throw it out one shoulder. If it's gotten to a point at this point where if Erika told me the sky was blue, I'd have to look up just to make sure that that was correct. Because she's made a lot of mistakes, a lot of errors. She's been wrong with so many times. She's taken people out of context. She's taken me out of context. All sorts of things have happened. And it's kind of hard to really believe anything Erika says at this point. So, but in any given case, I just want to share that with y'all. Thank y'all for watching. And have a blessed week. And God bless. And I'll see you on the next one.